This episode is brought to you by RAYCON. You never know where life is going to take you, but RAYCON's everyday earbuds offer premium audio that goes wherever you go. And their latest model is better than ever with a 32-hour battery life, active noise cancellation, and multi-point connectivity to pair with 2 devices at once. RAYCONs bring you top-tier audio quality at just half the price of other premium brands. And they even offer a 30-day happiness guarantee. No questions asked. Get 20% off RAYCON products site-wide at buyraycon.com/command.
Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks.
I'm your host, Jimmy Wall.
Today, we are talking about the most powerful commanders in the brand new set, Tarkir Dragonstorm.
We're back to Tarkir. This is a set that I love. Well, a setting that I love. Josh and I really got back into Magic playing Limited in this, so I'm very excited for today because there are some fun ones in here.
Funny thing is, I didn't play during Tarkir, but the first collection that I bought a huge bunch of cards.
Did you get a haircut?
I've had one.
It looks nice.
Thank you.
If you're watching the video and not listening, Rachel's hair looks
they can
great.
hear it.
All right, sorry, I cut you off. You were playing during Tarkir.
I wasn't playing during Tarkir, but the first collection I bought when I first started playing was a guy that played a ton of Tarkir. So like a lot of the bulk I had was from Tarkir and Born of the Gods. Are like the 2 sets I played the most of when I first started.
And one of your favorite decks is Sidisi.
That's true.
From Tarkir.
That's true.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the most powerful commanders in the 99, for the 99. We're not going to talk about all of them, the ones that we've selected to be the most powerful. But before we get into it, let's talk about our sponsors real fast. cardkingdom.com/command. If you want to get any Tarkir Dragonstorm cards, or even old cons of Tarkir cards, I still love the fact that this was like fetch lands reprinted. Wow, so cool. And of course, that set is amazing to draft. So if you want to pick up an old box of cards or a new box of cards, cardkingdom.com/command is the place to go. They have a huge inventory. You can select all the cards you want, get to shipped in one convenient package. And we just love Card Kingdom because we use them for our own stuff like Game Nights Live to make sure that we get our cards in the condition that we want, in the version that we want, and on time. So again, cardkingdom.com/command to support yourself in your Magic collection to be even greater than it was before.
Once those cards are in your hand, you're going to need to keep them safe, keep them protected from the wind and the rain. Go to ultrapro.com/command for the highest quality Magic accessories in the business. Sleeves, binders, playmats. And if there's one card in particular that you want to show off, they've got a brand new product. It's the One Touch Edge frame. They're these boys. They're little plastic cases for featuring one card, and they've got 2 different backs on it. My idea for this one is you get a whole bunch of them, you set them in front of your deck boxes, and you can like display your commander.
Oh, that's cool.
Then if it's game night, you just do you yoink it out of its little stand and go play.
Yeah, I love having stuff around my computer at my desk, and so this is like a perfect thing to showcase off that one really sweet thing that won you that draft, or maybe the card you're looking to build around. You just forget all the text on it because it's got 1,000 words. So yeah, the One Touch Edge, it's really cool. It's really easy to put on, and you can highlight a card of yours and keep it safe and sound and displayed.
Yeah.
Very cool.
ultrapro.com/command, and you're supporting your cards, keeping them safe, and also the channel while you do so.
Yeah.
Speaking of supporting, you can support us directly by going over to patreon.com/commandzone. Then you can join our community, get in our Discord, start chatting with other Commander players. You get access to game nights and extra turns a day early without ads.
Wow.
At certain tiers, you get access to limited edition.
It's definitely limited edition.
Exclusive content like Turn Talk. It's limited edition. We only release it once.
That's right. But we only release it once after each episode of Extra Turns, where you get to see the players talk about all the choices and decisions that they just made. Patreon.com/command zone. We also shout out one lucky patron every episode. So this 2-hour mega behemoth episode is dedicated to Ashton McCombs.
Ashton, you rock.
You rock.
All right, let's get into it. We are talking about the most powerful commanders from the new set, Tarkir Dragonstorm. And we're going to start with the first one we're going to talk about alphabetically.
Nice.
This is the backup commander to the Abzan Armor Precon.
Yeah, it's Betor, Ancestor's Voice. This card is pretty nuts. 2, a white, black, and a green for a 3/5 legendary Spirit Dragon. The dragons are back. It's got flying and lifelink, and here's the big text. At the beginning of your end step, put a number of 1/1 counters on up to one other target creature you control equal to the amount of life you've gained this turn. Return up to one target creature card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you lost this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, so you want to gain and lose life.
Yeah, I think I look at Betor and I'm like, I'm more interested in the losing life clause
Yeah,
here.
reanimation.
I think any life gain that you're putting in the deck is going to be incidental. It's going to be like a little bit of extra like goodness, but it's the gravy on top of the reanimate that your commander comes with.
Yeah, and gaining the life on the creature doesn't cause you to lose life. So it's not like, oh, I gained a bunch of life, add a counter to this creature, and now I can lose more life as a result. It's like, no, they're kind of separate in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and your commander has lifelink built in. So
Yeah.
that is pretty easy to get moving if you can attack with your 5-mana commander.
Yeah, so let's just lose some life and reanimate some stuff. Classic Abzan shenanigans.
First things first, we're going to be talking about this a lot this episode. We've got to make sure that our graveyard is full of options. You've got a repeatable reanimation machine in your command zone. You want to make sure you have a lot of things in your graveyard to reanimate. So let's do some self-milling and try and lose some life along the way.
Yeah, so fortunately for us, there's enough support in mill to give you options to both lose life, gain life, and draw cards as a result of milling. So life loss, this is one of Rachel and my favorite cards ever, I guess. It's Ripples of Undeath. Yay! It's an enchantment one in the black. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you mill 3 cards, and then you can pay 1 mana and 3 life. And if you do, you put the card from among those cards into your hand. So it's basically draw an extra card, but it costs you 1 mana and 3 life every turn, if you decide to do it. But you still mill no matter what.
Yep. So it's sort of like a graveyard-oriented Sylvan Library.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sylvan Library, that's also very good in this deck.
Good point.
But it gives you 2 things. It fills up your graveyard, it gives you a life loss engine, and it gives you a little bit of card advantage if you need it.
Yeah.
This is also the perfect deck for Doom Whisperer.
Yes.
I cannot think of a better one. This is 3 black for a 6/6 flying trample. It has an activated ability that says pay 2 life, surveil 2.
Do it as many times as you like.
Once you find something nice, you can pay life equal to its mana value and reanimate it on your end step. In the meantime, you're getting a lot of card selection. You're filling up that graveyard. And he's a good thing to reanimate to boot because he's huge.
Yeah. So you can either have something in the graveyard that's 6 mana or 5 mana or whatever. Is it equal to or it's equal to or less than? Yeah. So if you have like a 5-drop in your graveyard, you can be, okay, before my end step hits, I have Betor out. I'm going to just pay 2 life 3 times, and you pay 6 life, and you don't actually you can keep the cards on top of your library.
Yeah.
So you could just do it just to lose the life. So being able to both get the option to surveil in and to pay an exact amount of life that you need to animate a specific thing, or you find it when you surveil and then you pay up to it, whatever, it's powerful. It's very good.
The other great thing that synergizes with Betor is rad counters, because rad counters both lose you a little bit of life and give you a little bit of mill. You have less control over the life loss than you do with things like Ripples of Undeath, but it's still a lot of synergy that cannot be turned down here. So I wanted to mention Tato Farmer.
For potatoes.
I love this card.
Tomato.
This is a Fallout card.
Try one. They're disgusting. Great flavor text.
It's 2 and a green for a zombie mutant peasant. Ugh, poor guy. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may get 2 rad counters.
Oh, may.
Don't need to. But also, you probably want them. And then put target land in a graveyard that was milled this turn onto the battlefield under your control, tapped.
Yeah, so rad counters get other people rad as well, right?
Right.
If they have rad counters.
If you put it on them. But Tato Farmer only puts it on you. So you get 2 rad counters, and then on your upkeep, you mill for as many rad counters as you have. For every non-land card you hit, you lose that much life, and you remove those rad counters. And for every land you hit, you keep the rad counter, but you don't lose any life.
Yeah, so you're going to lose life, mill stuff. You can also put lands on the battlefield.
A lot of value.
Yeah, pretty cool. And if you obviously have other ways to mill your opponents, whatever, you can sometimes get some value to grab their lands. But really, it's more just you get lands, and then every time you get that land back, you get more landfall triggers, you get more rad. You get more radical by the day, dude. Nuclear Fallout's pretty sweet, too. This is the X black. Each creature gets twice -X until end of turn, and then every player gets X rad counters. So this is a way to make your opponents lose life, but more importantly, you're getting a board wipe, you're getting rad counters, and you're just moving your plan along.
Yeah. Board wipes aren't bad when you have a reanimation plan in your command zone.
Yeah.
So play this before Betor comes down. You get a little bit of self-mill, and you get to wipe the board.
Yeah.
Up next, I want to mention the backside of Blex Vexing Pest. It's Search for Blex.
Your favorite.
Actually, I have a commander deck built around this.
Yeah.
But this sorcery is very powerful. It's 2 black for a sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put any number of them into your hand, put the rest into your graveyard. You lose 3 life for each card you put into your hand this way. So it's a flexible life loss spell, and it fills up your graveyard for only 4 mana. Usually I'll keep a couple of lands and put all of my reanimation targets in the graveyard, and then you lost 6 life and can reanimate something on your end step with Betor.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. You can also say, Black, Lexic Blast, search for blacks. You found him. I like this category. It's life gain plus mill, and I like any cards that cost 2 mana. So we have Mire Triton, which is just a creature that comes in, mills you, and you gain 2 life, mills 2 cards. And then Dredger's Insight, which just came out in Ether Drift. Whenever one or more artifact and or creature cards leave your graveyard, you gain 1 life. So that's just naturally going to happen. But when it enters, you mill 4, and then you can return any artifact, creature, or land from among the mill cards into your hand. So this technically draws you a card for 1. So it's like a cantrip. And it will gain you a bunch of life over the course of the game. Get your mill plan going early. The most important part about mill decks is make sure you have a healthy graveyard before your reanimation plan gets going.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one more I want to mention before we move on from self-mill. Every time I play against this card, I'm like, surprised and love it again.
Surprised?
I'm Smuggler's Surprised. This is an instant with Spree for a single green, but you can pay an additional 2 to mill 4 cards and put up to 2 creature and or land cards from among the milled cards into your hand.
Whoa.
So a little mill spell withdraw. 4 and a green, you may put up to 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Remember,
So
this
that's
is an
6
instant.
total. Yeah.
And 1, creatures you control with power 4 or greater gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn.
Yeah, so Heroic Invention for power 4 or greater at 2 mana, pretty much, yeah.
Unfortunately, this doesn't protect your commander naturally, but this will protect a lot of the big things that you're trying to reanimate, and it has that mill attached to the draw.
Yeah, you're probably going to be most likely doing the first one of this to mill 4 for 3 mana. You can put up to 2 things, which is pretty sweet. And then the other ones are just gravy on top. If you spree every single one of these, you're crazy. And we're very proud of you.
You're on a kicking spree.
Yeah. Okay, time to reanimate some stuff.
Yeah, this, as always, is sort of a flavor to taste section. When you're building a reanimation deck, you can keep it sort of low and interactive, so you can like loop things like a Skyclave Apparition or like a Cathar Commando. I can only think of white examples. Ravenous Chupacabra, there we go.
There you go, Reclamation Sage.
Or you can try and lose bigger chunks of life and reanimate like
Bigger.
big things.
Yeah.
I wanted to include a couple of things that really work with this plan in addition, including a commander that I built around. It's Celestine the Living Saint.
Yeah, Celestine notably has lifelink, as do a couple of other creatures I'm going to talk about here. And it's also a reanimation creature. So it's a 3/4 that costs 5 mana, flying lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So if you reanimate her, you're going to have to wait a whole turn before Celestine's thing kicks in. But together with your commander, that's 6 potential flying lifelink that you can get in the air, and then you can just start going nuts. You get something back from your commander for losing some life, and then Celestine also reanimates something.
Yeah, it just spreads out your things that they have to remove. Your
Yeah.
commander has a lot of power on him. If he gets removed, you're like, oh no, it's all falling apart. But if you have something like Celestine, or even Rodolph does something very similar.
Rodolph the Red-Nosed Duskbringer.
Absolutely. He's a 6 mana vampire angel. He's a 4/4 with flying, death touch, and also lifelink. And it says whenever you gain life, Rodolph gains indestructible until end of turn. So
Wow.
we'll take that. But then at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1 and a hybrid Orzhov. When you do, return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life you've gained this turn.
Yeah.
So this is obviously very similar to Celestine and is on the same plan. These are expensive, but what I like about them is they gain you life, they're decent threats, and they further your plan.
Yeah, they're basically copies of your commander.
Yeah.
They're very similar. I mean, the effect on Betor isn't novel. It's definitely something that we've seen similar versions of. Betor just has a lot more going on because it's both life loss and life gain. And then obviously, if you put a card like Villas, a Broker of Blood, in this deck, you're going to love losing life because every time you lose life, you draw them many cards. But this is an 8 mana 8/8. with flying.
You have to lose 8 life to be able to reanimate it from the graveyard, but once he's there, he's doing a ton of work for your deck.
Yeah, and you're probably playing your just reanimate type spells in this deck, obviously, too. So you don't have to necessarily wait to get your Doom Whisperer out before Vilas is out. And Vilas also has an activated ability that lets you lose life.
Yeah.
Good job, Vilas.
A couple more life loss outlets. We've talked about them earlier, but I think this deck wants to have a ton of control over how much life you're losing and when. Something like Reanimate is obviously perfect because it reanimates something from your graveyard and loses you life, so you can reanimate another thing for only 1 mana.
Yeah, Phyrexian Reclamation allows you to pay 1 in black and 2 life, and you return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand, so you can do a lot of looping and stuff here. It's a little mana intensive, but you do get to, again, just pay life to do stuff, which is great.
This comes in the precon too for Phyrexian Reclamation.
Oh, very nice. They've been printing this card a lot.
Yeah.
Priest of Fellrights is just a classic. It's black and white for a 2/2. You can tap, pay 3 life, sack it, and reanimate something. Or you can unearth it later on in the game for 5 mana, which gives it haste. So you can do it the turn it comes down. So this is great in the graveyard. You're happy to have this get milled. You're very happy to have it in your hand because it's just a 2 mana card.
Yeah.
Great card.
This is pretty slick in the deck because you can activate it, you pay 3 life to do it, to reanimate a creature, and then you've paid 3 life. So on your end step, your commander lets you bring this back if you want to.
Yeah, so you could just Priest of Fellrights the entire game. That's pretty insane. Good job. Disruption and life loss. We have Bitter Triumph, which allows you to either discard a card to pay 3 life to destroy a creature or planeswalker. It's just a removal spell. Very good. You're in black. Snuff Out allows you to pay 4 life instead of its mana cost of 4 mana. If you control a swamp, destroy a non-black creature. So it's like Terror. And then we talked about another X kill everything spell, but Toxic Deluge. This one's really good because you can very specifically, outside of killing Betor, but you can very specifically, be like, or you can cast this and then cast Betor too.
Absolutely. But -4 is like, your commander has 5 toughness, so the -4 will kill a lot of things on the board and give you the ability to reanimate something.
Yeah.
Maybe something you just killed.
And that might not be the only way you lose life that turn too.
Right.
Yeah.
Final Payment is another removal spell that allows you to pay life. And then anything that lets you turn life into mana or life into cards is obviously going to be very powerful in this deck. Something like Necropotence is very obvious, but very powerful.
Minus the graveyard part where you can't.
You can't discard stuff and it gets exiled from your graveyard. But not ideal.
Typically when you play Necropotence, it's like game's over.
You've got a graveyard.
Yeah, your graveyard's good. You don't care about putting more stuff in there. You're going to draw so many cards you'll win from there.
Crick is a big one. You can pay 2 life instead of paying black mana costs. Or Defiler of Flesh is a similar thing.
Yeah, and then all of the talismans have an option to tap it for a 1 damage ping, as well as you got the pain lands, your fetch lands are a way to lose life, shock lands. A fetch land, shock land combo is like a 3 life loss, just doing what you're normally going to be doing in a game. And then you also have like the Horizon Canopy type lands.
Yeah, I mean, even just... We always recommend that you put these in your deck, but the MH3 Bolt lands, the MDFCs, that give you a lot of control over your life. They represent a land and a spell and also a lose life outlet in this deck. So there's a lot of flexibility.
What's the 2 green one where you can sack a creature, gain life equal to it, and draw cards? I forget the name.
That one.
It's on screen right now.
Boggart Trawlers, the Bojuka Bog one.
Bojuka Bog one, yeah, that's really good. Yeah, those MDFCs are just great.
Just very powerful and are going to be great in this deck.
Pick them up at cardcannon.com/scan. All right, a couple more synergistic cards here. I like these.
We've had a lot of like gain life, lose life things lately. Specifically, Bloomburrow, the bats cared about both losing and gaining life. So a couple of those I think are going to be great. Lunar Convocation is sort of the big payoff for this. It's a white and a black for an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, each opponent loses 1. And at the beginning of your end step, if you gained and lost life this turn, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. You can also pay 1 and a black and 2 life to draw a card.
Yeah, very cool.
So you gain some life. You can lose some life. You can draw some cards. It doesn't do a ton of things really well, but it does so much for only 2 mana.
Yeah, I always wish that I could put this deck together in Limited, because then you get Zoraline, which is the bat, and then Zoraline enters or attacks. You can pay black and white and 2 life, and then you get to return a non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it.
Yeah,
so this could also be a Savin's Reclamation deck.
Yep. I don't think you necessarily have to shoot for the stars in terms of what you're reanimating here. Like this may not be a reanimate 10-drop type of deck. It may just be like, I'm going to recur really annoying 4 and 5 drops.
Yeah.
Which is my style.
Okay, Betor, I saw a couple of comments where like, I didn't need another Reanimator deck, but I sure as heck am going to build one.
I know.
Because Betor's back.
This is very fun. I don't have an Abzan deck. I've been looking for one for ages, and I don't have Celestine together anymore, so maybe it's time.
Yeah, Celestine moved on in with Betor, the Angels and the Dragons. I think Celestine's an angel saint. Okay, next up we have the backup commander for the Jeskai deck that we previewed on this channel. It's Elsha, Threefold Master. This is Jeskai, so blue, red, and a white for a 1/1 Djinn Monk with Trample and Prowess. So anytime you cast a non-creature spell, the creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. And then whenever Elsha deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 white monk creature tokens with Prowess. So this obviously is about going wide, but also casting a lot of non-creature spells so that Elsha can get in for the damage, make a bunch of tokens, and then those tokens all have Prowess. This is, I'm just going to say it off the top, this is a very annoying deck to play if you're the one playing it, because you have to
imagine
control.
Playing this deck.
Imagine you have different layers of Prowess creatures on at different times. One, you have a Monastery Mentor out, and then that creates a Prowess creature, but you already have 5 out that had 2 Prowess triggers. It's immense.
I can't, I was thinking about it. I have a deck sort of like this that uses Jeskai Ascendancy and that kind of stuff, and it's just like...
Jeskai Ascendancy is the
it's
hardest
a
card to play
nightmare, and then your commander gets buffed, and then it makes a bunch of things, and then those don't have the buff from your commander. So there's layers of prowess to track.
And then Jeskai Ascendancy is given +1/+1. You have to draw and discard.
Everything's untapped.
Yeah. But there are players out there where this is their peanut butter and jelly jam.
Jamie Block.
He's right over there. Yeah. So if you do build this deck, just keep that in mind. You probably want different colored dice to represent things. And it's almost like, we would practice, a speech from Othello or whatever in high school. It's kind of like that. You kind of want to be able to be like, all right, everyone, so this layer is +3/+3, and then this is going to now go up to 5. Because you kind of have to communicate that, because when you go to combat damage, you also don't want it to be like, okay, it's like when someone's counting 99 bottles of beer on the wall, and it's like, darn it, I got to some number, and now I forgot. I have to start all the way back at the top. So that's just the forewarning to this. So let's talk about Elsha.
Yes. I do want to mention up top, a lot of the plan for this deck revolves around keeping Elsha alive.
Yeah.
And she's a 3-mana 1/1. So you do have to make sure that you have a lot of protection built into the deck, which isn't so hard. You're in great colors to protect your commander. You've got bolt bends, you've got counter spells, you've got protection from white.
Flicker,
but I do think you want a real density of these protection spells, and they're not so bad because they do just trigger prowess naturally.
Yeah.
So,
and in the template, by the way, these both land under targeted disruption in a way. It stops something and plan cards.
I don't consider protection cards disruption because they don't interrupt your opponent's plans, but they're great plan cards because this plan revolves around keeping one thing alive, making it really big, and then keeping a board alive. So having that, I think it really makes your plan possible. Speaking of the plan, we need to make more tokens to make your board more of a nightmare.
Yeah, I think all 3 of these cards are in the precon. So if you buy the precon, you're already off to a great start. It's Monastery Mentor, Third Path Iconoclast, and Young Pyromancer. Yep. So Young Pyro and Third Path Iconoclast just make 1/1 soldiers or elementals. The only one that makes these similar monk creature tokens with prowess would be the ye olde Monastery Mentor. Yeah. Great card.
The next 2 cards I want to caution you about putting them in because, oh my god, it's Roaming Throne. Roaming Throne, naming monk, means all of your monks prowess triggers twice. It means all of your Monastery Mentor triggers twice. Elsha makes twice as many monks when they hit.
Wow, Third Path Iconoclast makes twice as many soldiers too.
Yeah. It's very powerful. This is because this deck isn't a typal deck exactly, but it is going to make a lot of monks incidentally, and it sort of supercharges your prowess.
Yeah.
As does Veyron, Voice of Duality.
Which is a terrifying card.
Yes.
It's in the deck too, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
They've reprinted this a lot lately, which is nice. It's whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Veyron itself gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So sort of Magecraft, but prowess.
Prowess, by the way, is non-creature. Magecraft cares about instants and
sorceries. Yeah. And then it says, if casting or copying an instant or sorcery spell causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability an additional time.
Yeah, how many times can we say trigger and cast and copy in a single card? Turns out a lot.
Like, this is so crazy because having something that only triggers on your instant sorceries that is kind of like prowess in the deck just blows. Like, I just can't.
It's another layer.
I just can't even imagine tracking that also. But it is extremely powerful in the deck.
Yeah, and some people, again, this is their jam. They just love it. Oh gosh, more prowess. Okay, so let's talk about the cards that really make this deck even more intense to play. Jeskai Ascendancy. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you'll get +1/+1 until end of turn. Untap those creatures.
Yes.
So if you have additional synergy with that, go nuts. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you draw and then discard. You may draw and discard. So this also adds another layer of thinking to each of your turns. Because drawing and discard in itself can sometimes take 5, 10, 15 seconds. So just keep
Especially
that in
in
mind.
a deck that just wants to cast as many spells at instant speed as possible.
Yeah.
Balmor, Battle Mage Captain. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, creatures you control get +1/+0.
0. Oh no, another layer to the fold.
But they gain trample, and that's really good.
Yeah, that's actually necessary.
But it doesn't trigger on non-creatures. This one's specifically instant or sorcery.
Yeah, so it's Magecraft, but it's not +1/+1. So now you have to have another dice to track that.
Yeah, this one's not even Magecraft. This is just cast.
Yeah, exactly. The thing about this card is, though, you absolutely need this in the deck because the trample is how you win the games.
Right. Trample is huge. Your commander has it naturally, but the tokens that she makes do not.
Yeah.
You just need it to be able to punch through all of that damage. You can try to go wide, but you're not going to be able to go super, super wide with your commander without putting all of your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
So you got to be a little bit careful there.
Yeah. The next two cards are both cards I recommended for the upgrade. One of them is way more expensive because it was just printed once and in foil, and that's it. It's Bria Riptide Rogue. And then the other one is Narset Enlightened Exile. Both these are very similar because they basically give all your creatures prowess.
Right. Notably, prowess triggers separately. So if a thing has prowess twice, prowess matters.
Yeah, you'll get 2 prowess triggers on top. So if you have both Bria and Narset out, then all of your creatures have double prowess.
Yeah, well, all of your monks naturally have prowess, so they have prowess. And if you have a Veyron in play, now they have prowess.
Wow, each of the prowess twice. So Rip Bria says whenever you cast a non-creature, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn, which is really important in this deck. And then for Narset, it says whenever Narset attacks, exile target non-creature non-land card with mana value less than Narset's power. She's a 3/4. And you can cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So get ready for your 25-minute turn.
Yeah. This is definitely a build slowly, explode deck.
Yeah, you want to win in one turn, I think.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then everyone's going to be kind of, bored.
They're like, are we dead? We better be dead.
We better be dead.
If we're not dead, I will kill you.
What do you mean you have to recount the damage again? That's what I would have to do is every time.
Leonin Lightscribe is another way to give all of your creatures Magecraft prowess, but not regular prowess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spells. So this deck wants to get the prowess trigger up really high. You don't want to be dumping 5 mana into a spell and have nothing happen. You want to cast a lot of spells, so that means cantrips are really important. You're going to find some of these in the precon as well. Cards like Crash Through, creatures you control gain trample until end of turn, 1 red mana, draw a card. Everything gets their prowess trigger, you get to draw a card, you get to win con and trample.
Huge.
A lot of cards like this out there, Shadow Rift, Leap, they're basically cantrips in that they replace themselves. And if you are able to chain together 5 or 6 of these, now all of a sudden +6/+6 trample, that's how you're going to win.
Flying shadow, all this stuff,
da.
Boros Charm is huge. You can give your commander double strike to make twice as many monks, or protect your board, giving it indestructible from a big sweeper.
Yeah.
Or deal 4 damage. Go nuts.
Yeah, this
I don't know your
also is
life.
a Zadahedron grinder deck too. If there's ever
Oh
been
God,
one.
I can't. Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, or Mirrorwing Dragon is another one. I sort of built my last Jeskai deck around this, and it's my least played deck, my Kaikar deck.
It's a lot.
Kaikar also good in this deck. Okay.
Yep.
Psychotic Fury is another one. Multicolored creature gains double strike until end of turn with your commander.
And draw a card.
And draw a card, yeah. Double strike trample.
Another one that I thought of that was cool, especially if you're doing like an extra combat thing, which I could definitely imagine with this deck, is First Day of Class. It's another Strixhaven card. We've mentioned a lot of those. It's 1 in a red for an instant. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it gains haste until end of turn.
Oh my goodness.
Learned. So you have the draw discard from it. But all of your stuff enters with counters on it the whole turn, and all of them gain haste. So if you take a second combat, all of the monks you just made are 1 bigger and can attack right away.
Yeah, I was gonna say Anger seems really good in a deck like this because the haste is just that important. You really want to make sure that if you have that turn that you're preparing for, that you can go all out when you swing. So yeah, fun.
A cool one I found was Gossip's Talent. Whenever a creature you control enters Surveil 1, okay, and then the level 2 on it, this is a class, is 1 and a blue. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn.
Whoa.
So if you have only like prowess your commander a couple times, then you can still make it unblockable and buff it up really big in combat. Plus, when you make all those monks, you really get to dig with the Surveil ability.
Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of deck that, again, has a lot of cards with flashback probably in there, just because you want to be able to recast spells in later turns and never run out of gas. Your dig through times and all that stuff, your treasure cruises, they go really well in this deck.
Yeah. Anything you can cast for cheap. Finally, I wanted to mention that this, I think, is actually a Mystic Reflection deck.
Finally!
Which is awesome, because this card's really cool. It says, choose target non-legendary creature. The next time one or more creatures or planeswalkers enter the battlefield this turn, they enter as a copy of the chosen creature. You make a ton of monks all at one time, which is what makes this card really good. So you can choose a great card on your board or your opponent's board, and then you could turn all of your monks into Leonin Light Scribes. And now every time you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, all of your creatures get +1, +1, +1, +1, +1, +1. Don't playing this in paper. It just makes my head hurt.
I was going to say, this might be a brawl-only commander.
It feels like a digital-only commander. It's chaos with the amount of cards you can
chaotic.
put in this deck.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, this is kind of like a Rite of Replication on, steroids. It's crazy. You can make them all into like Reclamation Sages or Eternal Witnesses too if your opponent has one down. That's pretty sick.
Okay, you make them all into Avengers of Zendikar, and then what happens?
And then someone kills you or board wipes because I still think I've only seen an Avenger of Zendikar win a game like one time in my life.
Yeah, it's because everyone goes, murder it!
Murder it! Or just -1 everything before you get the land down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is Elsha, less powerful than the last Elsha we got. Still very powerful. Can do some sweet, crazy things. And if you have a system for tracking it in paper, let us know.
Yeah.
Because, dear Lord.
Yeah, it doesn't seem really fun to play in paper. But
I just can't. The amount of dice.
It could just be one of those cards that, for instance, I could see putting this in my Kai card deck.
Right.
But I don't know if I want to build a deck solely around it. Because it's more unidirectional, but it's still very powerful.
I agree. We've got a lot more commanders that we're going to talk about in this episode, but before we get to those, we've got to get to our sponsors.
We do.
Stick around for some of the most
busted crazy things.
Cool cats.
In just a bit.
Listen well, my mechanical multitudes. It is I, Elishnorn, Mother of Machines, here to declare that the day is nearly at hand where I shall be supreme. Mother's Day! I demand at least one of you give me the gift all mothers crave. RAYCON wireless earbuds. RAYCONs are perfect for the busy mom, whether she's hitting the gym, at work, or invading every plane in the multiverse at once. Their new model is better than ever with 32 hours of battery life and multi-point connectivity. RAYCONs even come with active noise cancellation, which is handy when the wailing of my enemies gets too loud. Plus, best of all, RAYCONs start at just half the price of other premium brands. Now there's no excuse for you not to get me a pair in my favorite color, Cool Mint. So take it from the Mother of Machines. These machines will make your Mother's Day.
Go to buyraycon.com/command to get 20% off site-wide. Right now, Raycon is offering up to 20% off site-wide when you go to buyraycon.com/command. Again, buyraycon.com/command.
Cards, so many cards. Josh, what would you say is your most valuable card?
Oh, well, actually, I do have a masterpiece sold.
Wrong! It's your credit card.
Wait, is this some kind of pay-to-win joke?
No, unless by winning you mean protecting your important cards with a high-quality Ridge wallet. Check it out, I just got one. Ridge wallets are sleek and minimalist, and a huge step up from what I was using before. They're lighter, stronger, way more secure, and clearing out my old wallet made me realize how many cards I was carrying around that I just didn't need. Ridge makes it easy to protect the cards that really matter, because all their wallets come with RFID blocking technology to protect you from digital pickpockets. Plus, when I need to actually use a card, it's easy to slide out and tap to pay. As easy as it is to slide away right now!
Oh, that's it. I'm getting a Ridge wallet.
Right now, Ridge is having their once-a-year anniversary sale. Get up to 40% off at ridge.com/command. Just head to ridge.com/command to see their biggest sale of the year.
After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. So please support the Command Zone and tell them our show sent you. Again, that's ridge.com/command.
Oh, hey everyone, it's me, everyone's favorite inescapable magic mascot, Loot the Pathfinder. I don't need help finding my path through the multiverse, but when it comes to selling my sweet loot-themed loot, well, that path was paved by Shopify. As you might Ancestor recall, I've talked to you about Shopify before, but the more sets I'm in, the more people demand cute, cuddleable me's, so my warehouses are flush with plush. Luckily, with Shopify's powerful tools, I'm making sales even quicker than a lightning bolt. They have the #1 checkout on the planet, making sure your shoppers' carts don't get abandoned. Like how I was abandoned in a vault for millennia. Shopify is the business behind the business, powering all sorts of sellers, even the Command Zone merch store. So if you want to boost your sales with Shopify, do it now. An opportunity like this doesn't double strike. I mean strike twice. Haha, silly little Lou.
Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/TCZ, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/TCZ to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/TCZ.
Aha, Psych Rift. Yeah, this deck feels like a 3.
Updating your decks?
No, I'm just sorting them into commander brackets.
Oh, just use ARCHIDEKT. It's the easiest way to get an estimate of your deck's bracket. Plus, you can click the number and it'll lay out the reasoning. It takes things like tutors, extra turns, and land destruction into account, and game changers are all clearly marked. It even recognizes 2-card combos. See? It's saying your deck is actually a 4. It'll be a 3 if you cut Ristic Study.
Huh. Okay, 4 it is.
ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and check your deck's commander brackets. Just go to archidekt.com/commandzone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/command-zone.
All right, we're back talking about the most powerful commanders for your commander deck.
Yeah.
From Tarkir Dragonstorm.
Up next, this next commander is super cool, and I think it's going to be very popular.
And spoiler alert, this is the commander I built around for our Game Nights episode for Tarkir Dragonstorm.
Yeah. This is Eshki, Temur's Roar. Green, a blue, and a red for a 2/2 human warrior. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Eshki. If that spell's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. If that spell's power is 6 or greater, Eshki deals damage equal to Eshki's power to each opponent.
Yeah. So no matter what, when you cast a creature spell, it could be a mana dork. She gets a 1/1 counter. And then if the power is 4 or greater, you get to draw a card. Amazing.
Incredible.
It's Garrick's Uprising on the creature. And then if the power is 6 or greater, then you're going to start doing damage. So hopefully by that point, Eshki's power is like 4, 5, 6. And then she's pinging everyone. You're putting huge beaters on the board. You're just killing everyone faster.
Again, this is a sort of must-kill commander for your opponents, so you really need to pack protection for Eshki. Make sure that you can keep this thing on the board because your whole deck is going to revolve around having her.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
This one's fun.
It is so fun.
Yeah, a topic that I was looking into at first was sort of based off of Josh's Greven deck, which is all about low mana value but high power creatures, so that you can play a bunch, you cycle them basically. It's a 1 mana thing that draws you a card, etc.
And there's a lot of really great ones in these colors, in green and red in particular. So power 4 or greater for cheap is very doable.
Yeah, super doable.
Sheltering Ancient is an easy one. It's 1 and a green for a 5/5 with trample. It has a cumulative upkeep of making your opponent's creatures bigger, but hopefully you can combo off faster than that'll matter.
Yeah, and that could be a fun political game. Lupine Prototype is a card that I put in my deck. It's a 2 mana 5/5 that's colorless, so you can just play it for, you don't even have to worry about the colors. And it can't attack or block unless a player has no cards in hand. Doesn't matter. You're playing this to draw a card and have a creature that will potentially, at some point, do something. Probably not.
You'll probably sack it for power. Like, this is a power matters list. It's less traditional than like a Yargle and Multani list, which is trying to fling stuff. This is a little less flingy and a little bit more stormy.
Yeah.
So these super cheap ones go a long way. Vantress Gargoyle is the same. It's just a 2 mana 5/4 with flying. It can't really attack or block unless like your opponents have stuff in the graveyard, I think, is the clause.
Yeah, and it can mill people. But again, this just comes down early, maybe attacks later. But we'll talk about cards where you can sacrifice creatures and love that stuff later on. I didn't realize this is a great card for that. Vexing Devil. One mana for a 4/3. When it enters, any opponent may have it deal 4 damage to them. If they do, sacrifice this creature. There's a good chance that no one does it.
No, there's no way I would. A 4/3 in Commander is so much less valuable
Yeah.
than 4 damage to my face, probably, especially when you have a burn Commander.
Yeah, exactly. They already know that your commander's going to start burning them later on. Have taken the 4 to get a 4/3 off the table is really not a big deal.
Yeah, unless you have like a greater good or something that I'm worried about.
Yeah.
I'm letting Vexing Devil live on the board in Commander.
Yeah, so that's just a 1 mana cycler that grows your commander and probably is going to start swinging in later on in the game.
Hazoret Godseeker is one that I think is interesting. I'm playing it in another commander deck to see how it goes, but it's 1 in a red for a legendary god. It's indestructible in haste. It has Trigger Engines and an ability 1 tap target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. It can attack or block unless you have max speed. This is from Ether Drift, of course. So it's just a 2 mana 5/3, which is already pretty good in this deck. And then it has these abilities that will be relevant as the game goes on. I don't know. This feels like the kind of deck that's going to move faster than the speed is for her to be attacking. But in the meantime, she's a creature that you can sacrifice, sort of like a Lupine prototype.
Yeah, I mean, like looking between Hazoret and Sheltering Agent, they're both 1 in a color for a 5-power creature.
Yep.
Hazoret has Indestructible in haste and has some relevant stuff. You're probably never going to use the tap ability on your own stuff, maybe on your opponent's. And max speed probably won't happen, especially if you play this later on in the game.
Yeah.
But it's still a very powerful card should it ever get fully online.
Last one's perfect in this deck. This is one that Jordan was like, did you talk about this? It's really cool.
That's hilarious.
It's go ahead.
Imaginary Pet, a 4/4 illusion. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have a card in hand, return Imaginary Pet to its owner's hand.
If you have any card, you can play it every turn.
Wow, you better have some cards in your hand because you're drawing so
all
many.
these cards.
Yeah. This is a very funny card. I didn't realize that this card existed either. Maybe I should rebuild my deck.
It's these just sort of like 2 mana, 4 power, and higher things with downside are only in your deck to storm off, basically.
Yeah. Make
get
commander
counters on your
bigger.
commander, dig until you can get to the big guys that deal damage.
Yeah.
There are, of course, a couple of cards that have 4 power or higher that do stuff in your deck.
Oh, really?
So we should probably mention those.
Yeah, Roaming Throne's going to obviously come up here again with your commander because you now get everything doubled on it, which is pretty good. You double the 1/1 counters, you double the card draw, you double the damage.
Yeah, this
Roaming
card's
Throne
just
is
busted.
Yeah, they should win you the game.
Yeah, they shouldn't have printed this card.
4 power matters. Decks all care about Goreclaw, Terror of Kalsizma, makes creature spells with power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast. So all the cards we just talked about now just cost 1 mana pretty much.
Free Lupine prototype.
Yeah, pretty sweet. And then when Goreclaw attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and trample.
Yeah.
It's kind of a win con as well. Anytime you have a deck that cares about power matters or just has big creatures, Goreclaw is like instant include.
For sure. Wayward Swordtooth is one that I would be slamming into this deck with all that card draw.
Yeah.
It's a 3 mana 5/5 dinosaur. Can't attack or block until you have Ascend, until you have the City's Blessing. But you get to play an additional land. So you're drawing so many cards. This seems like it's going to be imperative.
Yeah, I dig it.
And finally, you got to have Sulfim Mayhem Dominus. It's a 4 mana 5/4 that doubles your non-creature damage, which your commander cares about.
Yeah, and you can make it indestructible because you're going to have cards, extra cards.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's talk about some power 6 or greater.
Moving to the big boys.
At this point, your commander is buffed up. Maybe Eshki is a 5/5, 6/6, whatever, and now you're going to play low mana value, but big power creatures, 6 or greater. Pugnacious Hammerskull, 2 in a green. Whenever Pugnacious Hammerskull attacks, while you don't control another dinosaur, put a stun counter on it. Oh no.
It will never attack.
Yeah, or attack once and do 6.
and deal 6,
Yeah,
and
but
that'll
when
be
you
fine.
play it for 3 mana, it's going to deal, what? If your commander is a 5/5, it deals 15 damage around the table.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
One that's similar to Imaginary Pet that I found was Pangasaur.
Oh, boy.
2 green for a lizard. Whenever a player plays a land, return Pangasaur to its owner's hand.
Get him out of here.
Oh no, you can cast a Pangasaur every turn.
Yeah, it's cute.
That's cool.
One I put in my deck is Phyrexian Dreadnought. It's the 1 mana 12/12. When it enters, you sack it unless you sacrifice any number of creatures with total power 12 or greater.
You just sack itself.
You sack itself, yeah. But you might find that, for instance, your Lupine prototype.
That's true.
Or your Hazoret. It never is going to attack, but this 1 mana 12/12 is going to do it all for you.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's expensive, but it's cool.
Yeah.
This is a Force of Savagery deck, which I always love. It's 2 in a green for an 8/0 with trample.
See you later. Play it and have it die.
This is just a burn spell
With
that
Goreclaw
triggers your
out,
commander.
it's just a 1 green mana, 1/1 counter, draw a card, do a bunch of damage.
With, which is great.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like, you don't care about it actually staying on the battlefield, right?
No.
Plus, there are a lot of cards that actually are good. Those are all like sort of
Are
cute
good,
options
yeah.
that are cheap and let you storm off, but there are a lot of creatures that have low mana value and do stuff for your deck, like Perforos God of the Forge.
Yeah, it's just another kind of win con there, especially later on if you're playing your 1-mana huge spells to kill things. And then Erexmethi's Slumbering Isle is pretty good because it's a mana dork, but it also is a 12/12.
Yep. 4 mana, 12/12 that ramps you. We'll take it.
Yep, you probably want to play Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath in here. You're going to have a bunch of lands in your hand to be able to put onto the battlefield because of all the card draw, and you're going to be able to cast this later on, but it's just the 3 mana 6/6 out the gate for one turn. When it comes in, it comes out.
Dreamtide Whale is a 3 mana 7/5 that whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, proliferate and has vanishing 2. So you're definitely going to be able to fuel this. You've got some counters you can proliferate on your commander, and then of course on the Dreamtide Whale to keep it around.
Yep, and then Chandra's Incinerator is similar to Mayhem Dominus, where when a source deals non-combat damage, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that player controls.
Yeah, it turns your commander into a removal engine.
Yeah.
But importantly, this is a 6/6 that its spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn.
Yes.
So if you're in this stormy turn where you cast 1 6-drop, deal damage to everybody, you can just cast this for a red.
Yeah, just for red.
And you can trigger your commander again.
Yeah, your commander, it will never be at a 2/2 when it does its final thing, but even at 2/2, it does enough damage to make Chandra's Incinerator cost just 1 red mana.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Moving on, this is a Power Matters list, so there are definitely some cards that we want to talk about before we move on. Many of them are staples, so we're going to move through them kind of quickly. You've heard of these, but we got to mention them.
The Great Henge, yay! It's going to cost green in this deck.
It's going to cost $80 in this deck.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Garrick's Uprising is like the hallmark format for Power Matters card in this deck. It's going to draw you cards, give your creatures trample, and whenever you have more of those creatures come in, they draw more. So pretty good. It's like a replacement Eshki in a lot of ways. Greater Good probably is the best card in the deck. It's 2 green, sack a creature, draw cards equal to its power, and then discard 3 cards. So you can play a Phyrexian Dreadnought with that trigger on the stack, sack a Greater Good, draw 12, discard 3.
You still have to sacrifice 12 other things to keep.
Yeah, because
of the Phyrexian Dreadnought trigger, but you'll take the 12 cards. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take 12 cards. Selvala, Heart of the Wilds. You're always going to be playing the creature with the highest power, so you're going to draw a lot off of this, and it can just add X mana in any combination, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control.
Not to mention stuff like Terror of the Peaks is going to go a long way because
Yeah.
it cares about power when they enter.
Yeah, making your Lupine prototypes actually do something. Terror of the Peaks is one of those cards that doesn't.
I have to mention it because it's my favorite. We're going to talk about Pandemonium. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, that creature's controller may have it deal damage equal to its power to target creature or player of their choice.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a Warstorm Surge for the whole table.
Yeah,
but you
4
know who's
mana.
going to use that the best? You.
And the chances of your creatures dying from it are lower as well, because
Yeah.
he's going to be able to kill your 10/10 or whatever, your 6/6.
So you don't run this out immediately. You definitely don't want it on the table when Eshki is only like a 2/2 or a 3/3. But once you're storming off, this is a cheap Warstorm Surge that is going to allow you to do a lot more in one turn than a regular Warstorm Surge that costs 6 mana.
Yep. And then, of course, you have stuff like Temur Ascendancy, giving your creatures haste, and then redoubling down on the power 4 or greater, giving you a bunch of cards.
Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia is really good. It's tap to add 2 mana of any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures or creature cards. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, so only the big ones, put a +1/+1 counter on Gwenna and untap it.
Yeah.
This is perfect for those big turns where you're trying to chain together a bunch of creatures. You obviously want a high density of stuff that triggers your commander. The 6 power threshold, the 5 power threshold is really important, but we've talked about so many cards that hit that threshold in the deck already.
Yeah, it's pretty good in this deck. And now let's talk about some ways to really buff everything up and hopefully win the game, because if Eshki's not killing them, your creatures are. So Ronus' Monument is a 3 mana artifact. Green creature spells cost 1 less to cast. And then when we cast a creature spell, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. It's Eshki again.
Now when you cast creature spells, you get a trigger on Eshki, but you also get a Ronus' Monument, so you can buff your Eshki
To get it bigger.
and then your Eshki trigger resolves and does even more damage. Or
Just give
Just
it to your
has
giant
trample.
creature. Yeah,
That
it doesn't
too.
even have to be Eshki. It could be something else that's swinging in. Ashrut Animist is a new card from Bloomborough. Oh, no, Foundations. It's 2 red and green, 4/4 trample. When this creature attacks, another creature gains trample and gets +X/+X, which corrects this creature's power. So trample is the name of the game here.
Yeah, it just gives a bigger base to Eshki and puts trample in there on a 4/4 creature.
Yeah, and if you give Eshki like a Basilisk Collar or whatever, give it lifelink, yeah, you're going crazy. Yuck.
And once again, protection for your commander. She is the name of the game in this deck. So Bolt Bend, Snakeskin Veil, Untimely Malfunction, everything you can do
yada.
that just says, no, that's mine. No.
Even like a mana drain, if you're going to play that kind of game, is really good in this deck because you want to spend a lot of mana. So you could also be playing your Chandra's Ignitions in this deck. You could also be playing your Mana Geysers in this deck. There's a lot of different ways to build this. I think this is going to be a very popular commander.
I agree. Creature Storm in Temur is a very popular kind of archetype and is a ton of fun to play. So they're going to know that she's good.
And it has that fun sort of commander thing, which is like, look at all these cards you didn't think I would ever play in Commander, and here they are. And that to me is like part of the original spirit of why this format's so well loved.
For sure.
Next up, we got Kotis, Sibsig champion. Sibsig sounds like a Filipino dish, sisig, but it's not. Okay. Black, blue, and green for a 3/3 legendary creature zombie warrior. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard by exiling 3 other cards from your graveyard in addition to paying its other costs, kind of like Escape. Whenever one or more creatures you control enter, if one of them entered from a graveyard or was cast from a graveyard, put 2 1/1 counters on Kotis.
We don't really care about that. The big thing is casting your creatures from the graveyard.
Yeah.
So this gives every creature in your graveyard escape 3.
Yeah, pretty good.
And it
Underworld
doesn't put
Breach.
a finality counter on them.
Yeah, you can only do it once per turn, notably.
Yes.
But this is still very powerful. What's that other giant? Muldrotha is one of the most busted commanders. Obviously, Muldrotha a little more powerful, but Kotis still is pretty good here.
This is like Karadori.
Yeah.
So it's very powerful. It lets you cast creatures repeatedly from the graveyard. I think one of the best ways to build this, or how I would build this anyway, is like toolboxy.
No, this is one of the best ways to do it.
This is one of the best ways to do it.
Yeah, pay attention.
Here we go. A lesson. So I really like toolbox decks that use your graveyard as a second hand, and then you can fill your graveyard with creatures that sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
So you can go back to the graveyard, you can recast them, get your triggers again.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Bernard Ginger Sculptor deck that you all helped me build for game nights. Cards that go into the graveyard as a result of just being the card that they were born to be.
Yeah, it just gives you both halves of the puzzle. It gives you the creature to cast, and it gives you something that goes to the graveyard itself. So you would take 1,000 Sakura Tribelders, but unfortunately there's just one.
Yep.
So I would put a Sakura Tribelder in here, a Diligent Farmhand even, which is the single green for a guy, and then you pay 2 to sack him and get a land.
Yeah, and then Haywire Might, Insidious Fungus are both removal for artifact and enchantments. Insidious Fungus kind of also has ramp on it. Mm-hmm. Also, these are cards that you can exile later with the escape cost.
Right.
If you don't need their effect again.
Yeah, these like little creatures are they good in this moment? Like Diversion Unit is a card I've really been wanting to put into a deck since it got printed. This is from Ether Drift. It's 1 and a blue for an artifact creature robot. He's a 2/1 with flying, and he has blue. Sacrifice this creature, counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 3. How annoying to be able to have this replay this every turn.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool. It's like
so
Glenn
cool
Elendry.
and fun.
Also, it's just going to attack for like if people
it's just 2/1 flyer.
Yeah, it's going to hit for like 10 damage or whatever. Spore Frog seems kind of nuts in this deck.
It always is.
Have a Spore Frog up. Very annoying. That way you can just replay it, keep fogging, get to your win con, and then win.
If you're playing a lot of these little sack creatures, there's a lot of really good ways to get card advantage out of it, specifically stuff that cares about non-token creatures.
Yes.
Like Midnight Reaper is great. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, this creature deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card. So now every time you sacrifice one of these little creatures that you keep replaying, you draw even more cards.
Yeah, I do love a little bit of card draw. Ghostly Pilfer, whenever it becomes untapped, you can pay 2 if you do draw a card. Probably not going to happen too often, but whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than a hand, you draw a card. Probably not gonna, every commander, by the way.
Every commander, and it happens more than you think. Every time they cascade, every time they foretell.
But most importantly, too, Ghostly Pilfer is a free discard outlet. Discard a card, can't be blocked this turn.
I think Ghostly Pilfer is a really underrated card draw engine, and in this deck, it draws you cards and it gives you the ability to fill up your graveyard. You're like, I need one more card in there to exile,
get to the 3,
to cast a thing.
Yeah, that's huge. Because at a certain point, even though you're only doing it once a turn, you may run out of cards, and at that point, if you don't have a way to fill your graveyard up at all, you're gonna just feel kind of really like someone just took the spoke out of your wheel.
Uro, of course, is like that kind of thing is what we basically turned all of our creatures into Uro, is sort of what this deck is. So if you've got an Uro lying around, it certainly will be at home in this deck.
Yeah, like a white bordered Uro from Mystery Booster.
Ooh.
Just give the editors more work. All right, let's talk about self-mill. Now, we've already covered some self-mill in our first commander with Betor, but there are cards that are going to be more specifically good self-mills for this deck.
Aftermath Analyst.
Yay. 1 in the green. When it enters mill 3, you can pay 4 mana, sack it, return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. This is just the one. It's the one.
In this deck, milling 3 is sort of the exact number, right? Because you need 3 cards to be able to cast a creature from your graveyard.
Yeah.
So having an Aftermath Analyst that you can play, mill some cards, replay, mill 3 more, it just lets you kind of keep the loops going because it fuels itself. Shigeki is also very similar. This is the one that you can pay 1 in a green and return it from the battlefield to your hand, and you reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You put a land from among them onto the battlefield tapped and the rest into your graveyard. So you mill 3, you get a land onto the battlefield as well, and it lets you sort of keep going.
Yeah, and you can channel it after you return it to your hand to return X non-legendary cards from your graveyard to your hand for XX green. This is pretty good. Argoth. You're playing just the Argoth side. You don't care about the melding.
I don't think so. This is a land that enters untapped if you have a legendary green creature. There's quite a few in this list, including your 3-mana commander. It's got an activated ability that's 2 green, tap, create a bear, and then you mill 3 cards. Activate only as a sorcery.
Perfect.
I put this in my Sidisi deck, and it does way more work than you think it will, just because you're like, I don't know, I make a body, I mill some cards, like I'm moving at sorcery speed anyway.
Yeah.
So this just feels like an easy way to put some mana into your graveyard if you're trying to rebuild after a Bojuka Bog or something.
Yeah. Shifting Woodland probably enters into the same
Oh,
category. It's a very similar card or a similar-esque card that helps you recopy some of your stuff from your graveyard.
Then we've mentioned a lot of the similar things before, but there is a new, the enchantment that we really like in blue now.
Yeah, instead of...
Why can I never think of Ripples of
Undeath? Now it's Stillness in Motion. It's one in the blue. It's really cool art, and even loot's on there. I noticed. It's an enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep. Mill 3 cards. Yay! And then if your library has no cards in it, not going to happen. Exile this enchantment and put 5 cards from your graveyard on top of your library in any order. Actually, maybe.
At the beginning of your upkeep, mill 3 cards.
Yay! Now, still, Ripples of Undeath is beginning of your first pre-combat main phase.
Yeah.
Doesn't make a huge difference here, but mill 3 for 2 mana every turn. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's like Search for Azcanta. Like these types of cards that will automatically mill you every turn are going to be very good in the deck like this.
I mean, Hedron Crab is like a $10 card for a common because it does literally this. And this is an enchantment that just does it for free.
You may have a random Hedron Crab lying around.
Oh. So that's the self-mill section we will be talking about more this episode.
Yay!
But also, this deck is going to want more recursion than just your commander. You can only recur 1 thing per turn, and you're building your deck to take advantage of your graveyard. Yeah. So make sure you include other ways to do this. Marin of Clan Neltoth is very similar commander.
Yeah. Cares about creatures.
Don't have to exile anything.
And you're going to have creatures dying from that first section we talked about here. Bunch of experience counters. Yeah, Marin is like instant remove on spot type commander too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think this is Marin with a little bit of extra steps, but also 1 additional color and 1 less mana. So I think it's going to be a similar look to Marin, and she's great in the 99.
Yeah. Another one of your, kind of another Rachel favorite here.
I love this card.
Metamorphosis Fanatic.
I put it in a couple of these descriptions. This is a 6-mana creature that when it enters the battlefield, you return up to 1 target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with a lifelink counter on it.
Whoa.
And it has Miracle 1 in a black.
Yeah, that's what makes it nuts.
Yeah. So I really like this specifically in graveyard decks, obviously because of the reanimate effect, but because you can reanimate, like you could cast Metamorphosis Fanatic as your creature for turn, and it brings another one back for free.
Yeah.
You just start getting more bodies for the price of 1. And if you can blink it, if you can sacrifice it and replay it, there's just so much value you can get out of this single card. And it incidentally just balloons your life total.
It has lifelink itself too, right?
It's a 4/4 with lifelink. Yeah.
This could go in the Betor deck, by the way.
It can go in a lot of these decks.
Now we're back to Fallout. We got Raoul, Troubleshooter. That's what we call a tech guy. 1 in blue and the black, 1/4. Once during each of the turns, you may cast a spell from among cards in your graveyard that were milled this turn, and you can tap each player mill's card. Yay.
This one's great. It's in Sidisi. It's done tons of work for me.
Yeah.
It's self-mill, it's recursion, it's only 3 mana. We put it in there. Osteomancer Adept is a cool card that came out in Bloomburrow. This is 1 and a black for a squirrel warlock with Death Touch. It has a tap activated ability. It says until end of turn, you may cast creature spells from your graveyard by foraging in addition to paying their other costs. So yeah, it's sort of what your commander's doing anyway, is foraging. And then if you cast a spell this way, it enters with a finality counter on it. So it won't let you loop them, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, and there's also the skeleton guy that does a similar thing, Bone Lord.
Oh, yeah. Emperor of Bones.
Emperor of Bones.
Yeah, he's whenever he gets a +1 counter on him, you can make a token copy of a card you've exiled.
Self-mill graveyard stuff is one of the most supported things in Magic. That's
you can
why
do this 1,000 different ways.
Yeah, which is why it's great to build decks like this because you kind of choose your flavor. In this case, you look in the Muldrotha list to sort of see where this deck is sort of pointing towards.
Yeah, this one's more creature focused than Muldrotha because Muldrotha wants to mix up its card types, but it's definitely in the toolboxier variety than I think it's much closer to Marin.
Yeah.
Just in terms of what your deck wants to look like and what kind of things you're recurring.
Creatures.
But what kind of like tools? You're right now I need a fog. Right now I need a removal spell.
Yeah.
Like that's how you're thinking about this deck. The weird thing is it is a graveyard self-mill deck that I just doesn't use Living Death that well because you're eating so much of your graveyard.
That you're not going to have the stuff you want to. And sometimes you Living Death and just get a bunch of 1/1s.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, good, I've got all my Secure Dry Builders back.
And then I made my opponents really scary.
I think if you're interested in a Living Death deck, you're more interested in something like Sidisi that's just trying to dump its library into its graveyard and doesn't really care about what's in there.
Yeah, and your board is just a bunch of 2/2s, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think this is less of a Living Death deck than other creature graveyard strategies. But, you can put it in there because it's cool.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it going and keep it rolling with the Sultai train. It's Kotis, the Fangkeeper.
It's a second Kotis.
Oh, so many Kotises.
Yeah, this is the main set Kotis.
Yeah, so this is 1 Sultai, 1 black, green, blue for a 2/1 indestructible zombie warrior. Whenever Kotis deals combat damage to a player, exile the top X cards of their library, where X is the amount of damage dealt. You may cast any number of spells with mana value X or less from among them without paying their mana costs. So
Villain as well, fish.
yeah, it's a 2/1, so you don't want to just hit them for 2 because you probably are not going to be able to find something to cast off their library.
Right.
So you want to hit them for a ton of damage, trample over, and then you get that many cards, and you can cast any number of them as long as they have mana value X or less.
Yeah, this is like a Voltron. It's like Sultai Voltron with a villainous wealth payoff.
Yeah, I actually really like this because you don't typically see this in Sultai colors. You've got like Gonti and all that stuff that care about it, but in this case, Kotis wants to be doing the damage.
Those are much more go wide decks too. They're trying to have a lot of creatures deal combat damage. This one says like, no, just put a bunch of swords on Kotis and see what you get.
Yeah.
And you cast them without paying their mana cost, which is a huge difference. So you do have to do some work to get Kotis big enough that it's good and also evasive because indestructible
only goes so far.
Isn't evasion.
Yeah, it just means that you can attack freely, but it doesn't mean that they can't chump block it.
So first
Kotis,
things
by the
first.
way, will note that one of his arms is a sword.
Yeah.
And then his other arm's holding a sword.
This art is incredible.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Is this Marta?
It's Evan
Oh,
Fong.
no, Evan Fong.
Black
I
Market
love this
Connections. Evan, hey, you don't listen to this podcast, I don't think, but you're the best.
The first time I saw it, I was like, well, maybe I should build it because it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's really beautiful. But first things first, let's make Kotis bigger.
Yeah.
Whenever we're trying to buff a commander, I always recommend Hero's Blade. It's 2 mana, it gives them +3/+2, and it auto-equips to legendary creatures.
Yeah, you're going to play this before Kotis comes down. It's obviously very, very good there.
Just immediately your commander is a 5/3. That's great.
And then sometimes people don't want to block it because the only creature they have to block is their commander. And
Yeah.
you're like, you know what? Fine, take 5 cards off the top of my library.
You're like, good luck. We'll see what you get.
Please. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think that goes a huge way in just getting your commander big enough. Agent of the Shadow Thieves does double duty for you in this deck. It's 1 and a black for a background. Commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. It gains Death Touch and indestructible, yada, 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 until end of turn.
Pretty good. Death Touch, very powerful as well. Obviously, you're going to put as many swords and things in here as possible. Black Blade Reforge, +1/+1 for each land you control. Equipping legendary creatures only costs 3. Conqueror's Flail gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control, so it's immediately +3/+3 with the commander out.
And even more if you hit off of your opponent's libraries.
Oh, yeah, great point. Could be up to 5. And this is the huge one. As long as it's a tap to a creature, your opponents can't cast spells during your turn.
Yeah, back off.
Back off. Very good.
Any way that you can get your commander bigger, and evasive is going to go a long way. So the next thing we're going to talk about is, of course, evasion.
Yeah, wow.
We've been mentioning Brotherhood Regalia a lot. It is that good.
Yeah, this is like the new Swiftfoot boots, in my opinion.
I mean, it's certainly the new Whisper Silk Cloak. This card is incredible.
It's the new Lightning Greaves. No, it's not. It's a 2-mana equip legendary creature for 1. And it says equipped creature has Ward 2, is an assassin, and can't be blocked.
Nice.
This is like Rogue's Passage is just sobbing
Yeah.
over the fact that this card exists.
Ward 2 and Unblockable goes so far
Yeah.
in this deck. Because I want to mention, like, Indestructible only goes so far in terms of protection. Most of the removal, like we
The best
play in
removal.
Commander, is exile removal, it's bounce removal, it gets around Indestructible in some way. There's Shadow Spears running around that can turn off Indestructible.
Right.
You cannot rely entirely on Indestructible for your protection. But this Ward 2 is really annoying because now you're like, my Swords of Plowshares cost 3 and you're going to gain 7 life off of it. You're attacking somebody else. This is fine. I'll let you hit.
Yeah, exactly. And you know not to swing at the person with mana, white mana specifically, right?
Right.
Shizo Death Storehouse, the perfect card in this deck. You can pay a black tap to give a creature fear until end of turn. So again, unblockable in your commander is going to be very good here.
Yeah, unblockable against certain folks, of course. The Black Gate, it's a land with an activated ability. 1 in a black, choose a player with the most life or tied for the most life. Target creature can't be blocked by creatures that player controls this turn.
Yay. Good.
That's great.
Key to the City is a way to give a creature unblockable. Winged Boots just gives it flying and Ward 4.
Nice.
Wow, what the heck? You're never going to see a card like Winged Boots ever printed again, by
Ward
the way.
4 is insane. It's hexproof.
Yeah.
Like, this is hexproof and flying on this card.
Yeah, another background would be Sword Coast Sailor. It says whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, this creature can't be blocked this turn. So just more ways to get in. You love it.
More hexproof, because again, all of your eggs are in this Kotis basket. Champion's Helm gives him +2/+2 and gives him hexproof because he's legendary, only equips for 1.
Yeah, very good.
Collective Resistance, I've been a huge fan of lately.
Yeah.
And kill an artifact, it can kill an enchantment, or target creature gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. We will take it.
Snakeskin Veil, same thing. Guardian Augmenter gives your commanders both +2/+2 and hexproof and has flash. Wow. I love it.
We'll take it. The other way that they can get around your hexproof, your indestructible, is by having you sacrifice your creature. And in this case, I think because you're casting enough of your opponent's spells that you have room for Tajuru Preserver, which is a card I really like. It's 1 and a green for a 2/1 Elf Shaman. Spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents.
Wow.
So you will automatically lose to a Torment of Hailfire.
Because you have to pay the
Because
life.
you cannot sacrifice your
That's
permanents.
hilarious. Well,
You
have
can
cards,
discard cards
right, there
and you
go.
can pay your life and you'll be
Yeah.
fine.
You're like, look at all these cards I have in exile for my opponents. Crap,
Ah.
I'm dead.
Anyway, it's a cool way to protect your commander, and I think it's good in this kind of deck.
Yeah, and this could be very equipment focused. So if you want to play any of the swords to your taste, right? And you don't actually even have to care about Feast and Famine because you're casting the spells.
All
for
the spells
free.
for free, yeah.
So really, just play the swords that fit your play group. You know?
Right.
Okay. More theft in this deck. I do love some good thievering. Gaunty Knight Minister is out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the one that gives you a treasure anytime you cast a spell that doesn't belong to you.
Yeah,
It
so-
also gives your opponents this benefit, but you're going to be making a lot of treasures with this
Yeah,
thing.
and they're not attacking you to get it, by the way. They have
Right.
to attack each other. So you could potentially hit with your commander for like 5, cast 3 things, get 3 treasures, play more stuff, go ham.
And of course, you have to play with Villainous Wealth.
Yeah, you got it.
That's the rules.
It's what this deck kind of is all about.
It's what the deck is all about.
Villainous Wealth off the top.
All right, we are back on Tarkir, which means only one thing: another busted Narset commander.
No, there's no way that this Narset's busted. It's pretty good. Blue, red, and the white for Narset, Jeskai, Waymaster. A 3/4 legendary human monk. At the beginning of your end step, you may discard your hand. If you do, you draw cards equal to the number of spells you've cast this turn. So you empty your hand because you just cast 7 0-drops.
Hey, did you smell that? It smells like a storm's coming.
Ruin coming. It's
All the rain. Yeah. So this is a very powerful commander. It's designed obviously to cast as many spells as possible, like all good storm decks.
Is this a CEDH deck? Feels like it could be.
I think it could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anything
Some
about
sort of
CEDH.
combo thing. Yeah, I don't know.
But there's two different ways you can build this. There's like sort of an artifact focus, one where you're casting 0 mana artifacts, or you can do more of like a spell slinger version of this. They're going to be built a little bit differently. So when you decide to build Narset, make a choice. You can have a little bit of each like in both builds, of course, but it's going to change some of your synergy depending on how you do it. So I wanted to talk about artifacts first. This is designed to cast a ton of 0 mana artifacts all on one turn.
Yeah, after Narset is out.
Right.
Unless you need the artifacts to cast your commander. So you would hold your Mishra's Bauble and your Lotus Petals, your Mox Ambers. By the way, did we mention that this is going to be a very expensive deck to build? Because anytime you lower the mana cost, the price goes up.
Yeah, I mean, even just cost reducers, like just things that say your artifacts cost 1 less to cast, lets you chain even more and more together.
Yeah.
Your draw engines in this deck are going to rely, of course, on you casting artifacts. So like Joyra, Weatherlight Captain. Whenever you cast a historic spell, you draw a card. Or like Mystic Forge, it lets you cast colorless spells off the top of your library.
Yep.
You are going to need a card advantage engine because if you do this and they remove your commander, then you have no cards in your hand.
Yeah.
You do need alternate card advantage engines, and Mystic Forge is a very powerful one if you can build it the right way.
Yeah, Crystal Skull is a Assassin's Creed card that basically is Mystic Forge, but is more along the lines of Joyra, which you can only play historic lands and historic spells from the top of your library. Paradoxical Outcome I thought was really interesting in this deck.
If you're building this deck the artifact route, the Cheerios route, you are including every single way you can pick up all of your artifacts that exists.
To play them again.
Paradoxical Outcome says return any number of target non-land, non-token permanents you control to their owner's hand. Draw a card for each card you return to your hand this way.
Wow.
Even Filter Out returns all non-creature and non-land permanents to their owner's hand. Great. Return all my Cheerios to my hand.
Yeah,
Hurkyl's
Hurkyl's
Recall.
Recall.
Return all your artifacts to your hand. Then you replay them and all of the ones that you've drawn to draw 20.
20, yeah. And then you cast any storm spell.
You can cast infinite spells if you have a Hullbreaker Horror and 2 0 drops.
Yeah.
Or like a...
They just basically bounce each other over and over again every time you cast that spell.
So in that case, if you've cast infinite spells, if you have infinite storm, you know that you're going to die on your upkeep if you keep Narset around.
Right.
So you do sort of need to either have a Laboratory Maniac on the board, or you need to draw exactly your library, or you need to be very specific about how many spells you actually cast.
Yeah.
This is one big draw trigger. So it's not like you can draw some of your deck, flash out your Lab Maniac.
have it all at the same time.
It's one big draw trigger. So if you have a Laboratory Maniac or a Jace Wielder of Mysteries or something like that, then you win the game by using your Infinite Storm.
Yay, Infinite Storm.
Yay.
This is definitely fun to play against, everyone.
It's a Storm deck, so it's going to do nothing, win the game.
Also, don't forget, your commander counts as the first spell you cast that turn if it's the only play you make. So no matter what the turn you play Narset, if she survives to your end step, you will draw 1 card.
Well, you'll discard your hand and draw one card.
Yeah. So you don't want that to happen, obviously.
I think that's probably the more competitive build of her, but there's definitely a Spellslinger version where you're running any spell that you can cast for free, basically.
Yeah, Gitaxian Probe is going to cost you Phyrexian mana. Snap untaps lands, so your like Peregrine Drake type effects are going to be pretty good in this deck as well, because it counts as a thing, and then you get to keep going.
Yeah.
Frantic Search.
Any rituals that just give you more mana back means you can chain more and more things together. This is much more traditional Storm. Like you can do Underworld Breach, Brain Freeze combos to cast infinite things and deck all of your opponents. There's a lot of ways to win when you can draw this many cards. One that I thought of was like, if you have Dramatic Reversal Isochron Scepter, you can make infinite mana, but you also cast Dramatic Reversal infinite times.
Yeah.
And then you can do the Laboratory Maniac Jace thing.
Oof, sounds so exciting.
So you
I've
draw,
never been more
like
ready.
in those, you draw exactly your library.
Yeah.
And then you make infinite mana in your end step and you flash in a Thassa's Oracle, I think does it.
You don't have to exactly draw your library with your Thassa's, right? You could figure out what your devotion is.
Yeah, you can draw
and all
everything.
That, so,
yeah. You can draw slightly less than your entire library.
For the people that know how this works inside and out.
You don't need us to tell you.
You don't need us to tell you, and we're probably going to mess it up.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's very good, obviously. I don't know if you build this deck if you don't want to go competitive with it.
That's how I feel. There's other payoffs. There's a lot of which we've talked about before. Like you can do Kaikar and Jeskai Ascendancy, Whirlwind of Thought. All of these are just sort
Draw
of
a ton of cards.
classic Jeskai non-creature payoffs.
Yeah, Birgi, Coruscation Mage, all things that congratulate you. Reckless Fireweaver.
Yeah, there's a lot of like incremental ways to win the game. Like the Reckless Fireweaver says whenever an artifact enters, you deal 1 damage to each opponent.
Yeah.
And then you cast all your Cheerios, you deal a bunch of damage, you return them all to your hand, you cast them all, you deal a bunch of damage. But there's just no way that this deck is going to feel incremental because that's not how it's designed. It's designed to have one big turn that takes forever and kills everybody on the turn.
Yeah, and it's like the question then becomes, do you have it when you play the card? And if you do, great. And if no one can interact, great, because you have all your free mana counter spells as well in there too, right?
Right. It's going to be a high-powered deck sort of no matter how you build it. And if it's not, your opponents will treat it like a high-powered deck because they have to.
Yeah.
So, Narset players, be warned once again.
Yeah, we won't go too far into it. There definitely is a flavor of player that enjoys this sort of stuff. Actually, all of the Jeskai stuff we talked about is like...
very stormy.
Yeah, buyer beware. It's definitely got its own ups and downs just being what it is.
All right.
Great. Okay.
On to Mardu.
Yay! This is definitely going to be as powerful as Jeskai, right? Actually, it's pretty good.
This one's pretty good.
Yeah, so instead of spells, we're talking about damage. It's Neriv, Heart of the Storm. It's a spirit dragon for 1 in Mardu for a 4/5 with flying. If a creature you control that entered this turn would deal damage, it deals twice that damage instead. So specifically cares about the turn it enters, so it can't be like a turn later. But it means that if you chain together your Terror of the Peaks with things that same turn, then it's going to deal a lot of damage.
Yeah,
or
so-
Rachel's favorite card.
Pandemonium!
Hey, we got there again.
Yeah, so this can be like creatures with haste. This can be creatures that deal damage when they enter. This can be ninjas. Mardu
go.
ninjas, get it done. That's
why not?
sweet. So we're going to break down a couple of different ways that you can trigger your commander, starting with probably the most obvious and most powerful, which is the Pandemoniums, the Warstorm Surges of the world.
Yeah, if you play Dragon Tempest decks or Dragon decks, then obviously all the dragons entering are dealing a ton of damage. Perforos is interesting because Perforos is the one dealing the damage, so it won't be like, oh, I play Perforos and the next turn I go off. It's like, no, the Perforos is dealing the damage, so it has to be that same turn.
Terror of the Peaks is the same problem. Terror of the Peaks
you're
deals
right.
the damage.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that the creature entering is the one triggering it, or when the creature enters, it deals damage itself.
Yeah.
Like Fury, I think is great in this deck.
Oh, baby.
Because when it enters, it deals 4 damage divided by as many targets as you'd like, but it deals double that. Remember, the damage gets doubled after you assign it. So if there's like 4 2/2s, you can assign 1 damage to each, and it would kill all of it.
Yep. And then obviously you look at any of the damage decks out there, you're going to have the damage amplifiers on top of that. So your Torbrands and all that stuff.
Torbrand doesn't work particularly well with doublers, so that one probably not, but all of your doublers and triplers will stack.
Yeah.
Fanatic of Mogus is great. This is going to be a highly red deck. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage to each opponent equal to your devotion to red. So all of that is doubled.
Yay.
Up
now,
next.
another way of getting damage out on the turn that enters is just combat damage. So haste is obviously very powerful.
Fast boys.
And Mardu's got a lot of fast boys and girls, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Goldspan Dragon. It's a dragon deck.
I think this is a fun dragon deck. There's a lot of dragons with haste. You can cast
totally.
mid-rangey stuff that comes out and deals double damage.
There's dragons that deal damage when they ETB as well. There's a lot of ways that dragons can get that damage in the turn they come down.
Aurelia, the Law Above, is a sweet one. So this is 5 mana for a 4/4 in Boros with flying, vigilance, and haste. Whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, I draw a card. Whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, Aurelia deals 3 damage to each of your opponents, and you gain 3 life. So that can also be doubled,
Right.
if you attack. And you have, of course, meet the stipulation
4
of
other
5,
creatures
4 other
with,
creatures.
yeah.
It's fine. You already have your commander on the board. You probably have stuff underneath that.
Yeah, totally. Olivia Crimson Bride is going to come in and reanimate something huge from your graveyard. That's a 6 mana card, however.
And it's attacking. So it has haste itself and reanimates a thing that's attacking. So both of those are deal
You get
double damage.
And then obviously all the regular ways you can give your stuff haste would be like your Lightning Greaves and your Swiftfoot Boots. This is a sneak attack deck if I've ever seen one, because we just talked about 2 5-drops and a 6-drop.
Yeah, I mean, sneak attack gives the thing haste and it dies. So you're like, I don't care if I sacrifice it. It dealt double damage while it was here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's coming back anyway because of Olivia or whatever. Or you can also sneak attack in your Fanatic Amogus.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of different things you can do with sneak attack. Kiki Jiki
Yeah,
Oh,
so
boy.
that was the other thing I was thinking about. It was like red has a lot of ways to make creatures that have haste and then go away at the end of turn.
Yeah.
So I think anything that makes these temporary copies that enter with haste is going to be a really good way to make sure you always have something to deal double damage with.
Yeah, Heat, Shimmer, all those types of cards. I just built a red-green Atali deck, and there's a lot of cards that just want to copy Atali and then don't care, and then give it haste. So there's a lot of cards in that category for sure.
Copy Atali, don't care.
Don't care.
We talked about a lot of legendaries in this section, so I wanted to mention Kadric Soul Kindler. It's the one that allows you, this is the Boros guy that allows you to make copies of legendaries until end of turn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sick with an Aurelia. Like, you make 2 of those, you make 2 of your commanders, and one of them has haste.
Sweet. Yeah.
It's very cool.
We're in black, so we've got ninjas. I love this category. This is such a Rachel thing to do.
I was like, ninjas? How many options are there? 16. Not many.
But black obviously is going to have a lot of ninjas.
You could totally do it. You could do this dragon ninja deck.
Yeah, Dragon Ninjas. And then because there are a lot of ETBs, you're going to get to rebuy your ETBs on dragons. That's kind of cool.
It's just ninjas without blue. It'll be fine. You can do it.
The hungriest mana deck that's ever existed.
I believe in you. This also pairs well with the ETB damage enchantments because ninjas sort of enter and leave the battlefield so many
I mean, you
times.
may as well it's not a full ninja deck, but you do have some ninjas in there
Like a
because
couple
it's
of
so
ninjas?
good. Yeah.
That's sweet. You can reset like a haste creature to have it enter the battlefield next
Yeah,
turn for
you
the first
Goldspan
time.
Dragon swing, and then you put in Nashi, Moon Sage's Scion. Yeah, for Ninjutsu 4.
You're only going to do 6 damage with Nashi. Ooh. But Orochi's Soul Reaver is cool. This is
cool.
ninjutsu for 4. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token and you manifest the top card of that player's library. So you get some extra blockers, which is great in a very aggressive deck, and you get some treasures for
And
your
Orochi
trouble.
doesn't have to hit for this to happen for the next time around, right?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So because you have all these flyers, you're gonna have unblocked creatures. It's actually pretty sweet.
Not to mention it's a 5/4, so it hits for 10. You're like, "Ugh, I don't like this ninja. All right, we are moving on to another Jeskai commander. This one's been out for a little while, and it's very cool.
Yeah, there's been, I think, 3 Jeskai commanders so far.
Yeah,
Turns out Jeskai.
it's Tarkir.
Yeah. All right, Shiko, Paragon of the Way. It's 2 blue, red, and a white for a 4/5 with flying and vigilance. It's their spirit dragon. When Shiko enters, exile target non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. You copy it, and then you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost.
Okay.
Right.
This is just an ETB on your commander. How very restrained of them.
Very restrained, but you are in blue and white, so you can ephemerate, you can flicker. There's a lot of ways to rebuy this ETB.
And it doesn't care about what kind of creatures in your graveyard. As long as it's 3 mana or less, you can cast it.
Yeah.
So first things first, if you're doing... I wanted to mention... So you're casting a copy of a spell, so I do the caveat every time.
All right.
This doesn't work with anointed procession type effects, because when you cast a copy of a spell, it becomes a token. You are not creating a token.
Yes.
Magic is dumb, but that's how that works.
Yeah, also notably, the copy has all of the copyable attributes from the original card, so it retains its mana value, its text types, all that sort of stuff.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
We want to cast stuff from the graveyard, so we got to get some stuff into our graveyard. It's time to talk about self-mill again, but looting!
Yay! And actually one of my favorite cards from Foundations.
This card's great.
Yeah, Kiora the Rising Tide, a 3 mana, 2 in the blue for 3/2. When it enters, draw 2, discard 2. And then whenever Kiora attacks, if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you may create Scion of the Deep, a legendary 8/8 blue octopus creature token.
Sick.
But just looting is very good.
Looting's great. It's also a 3 mana creature that you can flashback with your commander, or you can blink with the inevitable
package.
blink package you're
Yeah.
going to put in this deck. Steamcore Scholars, a similar thing. 3 mana creature, enters, you draw 2, then you discard 2 unless you discard an instant or sorcery or a creature with flying.
But you actually want to discard the cards.
Yeah.
Because you want to have a graveyard functioning in this deck for sure.
Yeah, I think any of these 3 mana creatures that enter and draw and discard are going to be very good. Also, like those ETB ones with the blink package, but you still want something like a Frantic Search that you're going to cast for free and will inevitably untap 3 of your lands, which is cool.
Yeah, so again, non-land is pretty sweet because typically Jeskai is just about non-creature spells, but in this case you have your Champion of Wits, which is a very similar thing, which you can also eternalize from a graveyard, and then Seasoned Pyromancer, which I absolutely love.
I love that
Because
card.
if you have 0 cards in hand, you just draw 2 cards with Seasoned Pyromancer.
In red.
In red,
It's
yeah.
red card draw. As long as you have
Conditional.
nothing, you can have two things. Windfall, of course, is going to do the thing for you. Bitter Reunion, we always recommend because this is great to return from the graveyard. It's when it enters the battlefield, you discard a card and draw two, and then you can sacrifice it to give your board haste. This is also a cool opportunity to put in suspend cards.
Oh, right, because they are
your
under
commander,
mana value 3.
So your commander can cast like a Wheel of Fate from your graveyard without paying its mana cost, which is great because it doesn't have one.
That's pretty good. And Wheel of Fate, very good. Yeah, this is like if you want to go the more spicy route, then you're putting in your Underworld Breach because you should have a pretty healthy graveyard by the time you want to start winning the game.
All right. We alluded to it. It's time to blink.
Yay.
Don't blink.
Momentary
No,
blink.
blink.
Yeah, blinking is very good in this deck because you get a free spell cast off your commander if you can blink multiple times and you can cast a Frantic Search with this and that. Very good. Does it exile the card? I don't think it does, right?
Yeah, it must. It exiles and copies it, right?
Oh, yeah, you exile.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't obviously cast one thing over and over again, but it doesn't really matter because you're just going to go nuts. So Soul Herder we're in white and blue. End step, you can exile a creature and bring it back. So pretty good with the commander. You're going to have a lot of value off of it. And it's also just going to happen every single turn that Soul Herder is out.
Yeah.
It's also a 3-mana card. Whoa.
Synergy.
Synergy.
The best card in this deck, if you're building it to really go, is Displacer Kitten. Because if you cast a non-creature spell, exile, copy it, and then cast the copy, right?
Yeah.
Then you may cast. Yeah. So if
Does
you
this
cast
ignore
a
timing restrictions?
Yeah, I think you cast it right away.
Yeah, you cast it right away. Copy it. Then you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Copy of the
Yes, yeah. You cast it right away.
Yeah. So end step stuff is totally fine.
So
But
with
Displacer
Displacer Kitten, if you cast a non-creature spell, you blink your commander again, get a non-creature spell, blink your commander again. And then you can just cast every non-creature spell in your graveyard.
Yeah, pretty good.
That seems fine.
Seems fine. Your opponents won't be like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
I don't know if this is good for our mental health.
Wait a minute. That's a good kitten. That one's 4 mana, Cry.
You really want to save up protection when you cast your Displacer Kitten, some kind of counter or some kind of, stop people from killing my thing. Because once this card is out, it's kind of GG if you prepared your board enough.
Yeah. You need any non-creature instant, and you can protect your Displacer Kitten, which is why it's such a messed up card. You could do Displacer Kitten at home, which is Kaikar Zephyr Awakener.
Yeah, 2 in the blue and the white, another great card from Foundations. 3/4, flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature, you can either exile another target creature you control, and it returns at the beginning of the next end step.
End step, only once.
Only once. Or you can make a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying, which you're probably never going to do.
Yeah, in this one, you're probably just going to use it to cast one non-creature spell per turn from your graveyard.
Yeah. Pretty good. I really like Parting Gust on here. This is a great include. Yeah, this is a removal spell or a flicker spell, depending on whether or not you gift tapped fish. So white instant, you can exile target non-token creature, but if the gift wasn't promised, that creature gets returned to the battlefield under its owner control with a 1/1 counter at the beginning of the next end step. So this has the ability, if you give someone tapped 1/1, to just be a path to exile.
Yeah. It's protection from board wipes. It's removal spells. It's
I like it a lot.
flicker. It's very good.
Yeah, very good. And then Ephemerate, Ghostly Flicker, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You got it.
Blink spells. We have all the blink spells. It's time to blink some creatures. I think if you're playing this deck, you're probably building a fairly high power version of it. I had trouble picturing this deck as a lower power build.
Now, the moment you're casting cheap spells for free and you can recur it over and over again, you're going to be going higher power level.
So I think you can do some of the ETB tutors. Recruiter of the Guard is great because you can go find Displacer Kitten, or you can go find some of your Blink package or some of your looters. Spellseeker helps you go find Ephemerate, which helps you go find even more Blink spells.
Yep. Flicker Wisp lets you just do it for your commander again, keep going nuts.
All of those, 3 mana and under, of course.
Yep.
And then you want interaction on an ETB creature. That's where a lot of your stuff is going to be built in. Lauren of the Third Path is always good in this slot. ETBs and destroys an artifact or enchantment or draw some cards. And Lavinia of the 10th I've had play against me
my gosh.
in Blink decks. And this card is backbreaking.
Yeah, it sucks. Lavinia is not fun to play against.
This one is like When it enters, I had only played against it the one time, and I was like, what is this card?
Yeah, especially given how decks are so low curve these days.
When it enters, detain each non-land permanent your opponents control with mana value 4 or less.
Yeah,
For
get them on
those
lockdown.
who have not been detained, it says, until your next turn, those permanents can't attack or block, and their activated abilities can't be activated. So they still get their regular abilities, but you can't tap them for anything. That includes your mana rocks, that includes your mana creatures, that includes your
This is
treasures.
how you end the game, by the way.
Yes, this is a lockdown.
You Lavinia out, lockdown, swing, whatever it is that you end up doing.
Yeah.
This deck does feel pretty toolboxy in itself, too. Any Flicker decks are all about rebuying things, so that means that you're able to really hold the table down. Because when you're able to both blink and recur from the graveyard, and you don't actually have to have your commander for this deck to function, then you're really talking about a powerful deck because it just works no matter what.
This feels like a very strong control deck. You're casting like blink spells to blink your commander, to cast your counterspell from the graveyard. It's exiled. You're like, oh, I don't need to counter anything. Great, I'll flicker this thing that draws me 2 cards. I'll flicker my spell seeker to get me another protection piece. It's many layers of problems. So it's going to be very, very defensive and likely very controlling.
Yeah, you can even add in your Elish Norn Mother. And then you're putting in your 1 white exile white creature or whatever.
You're talking about Elish Norn, Mother Machines, and then Skyclave Apparition.
Right. There's just so many ways that this deck goes from like, wow, that was cool. You did. Oh no, I can't do nothing.
I've been detained.
Yeah, Lavinia is hilarious.
I had to mention it because I played against it that one time and was like, all right, okay, what is this bulk card?
Not to mention, if you have just a bunch of Flicker stuff, you can just put in generically powerful cards that you just have natural protection for. So you're not wasting any slots on other, I just need to protect more things. Like, no, those Ephemerates and all that stuff, they are just natural protection for your deck already. So,
all right.
Pretty powerful.
Moving on to my girl, but deader. It's Sidisi, Regent of the Mire.
And more mono black.
1 and a black for a zombie. Snake Warlock. She's a 1/3 with an activated ability. Tap, sacrifice a creature you control with mana value X other than Sidisi. Return target creature card with mana value X +1 from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery.
Why doesn't they just say another
She's
creature?
Dying Pod.
Yeah, Dying Pod. So other than Sidisi, mana value X, and then you get X +1.
Yep. So you sacrifice a 2-drop, you get a 3-drop from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Yep.
Which means we have to start with our favorite segment, Self-Mill.
Wow, this is the 5th time we've talked about Self-Mill on the show today. Self-Mill brought to you by
Tarkir.
Eternal Fitness.
We've talked a lot about this. We're not going to spend a ton of time here, but I did want to mention just some creature-based ones that we haven't talked about yet. This is the perfect Stitcher Supplier deck. Because it triggers when it enters, it triggers when it dies. It's something for Sidisi to sacrifice to get a 2-drop back.
Yeah, which is Dogged Detective. Well, y'all love this card.
I like this one a lot. When it enters, you surveil 2, and then whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you may return Dogged Detective from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah.
So you can play this, surveil 2, sacrifice it, get a 3-drop back, then your opponent draws 2, and you return it to your hand.
Play it, surveil 2, blah, 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 blah.
These creatures that can kind of loot themselves from the graveyard are going to be able to fuel your Sidisi sacrifice engine.
And dogs are better than cats, just so everyone knows.
Oh.
Barrel Goyf, 2 in the black. This is the card you get back after you sack your Dogged Detective. This is just, I played against this in Canlander, and oh boy.
When this comes down across from you in Canlander, you're like, that's a 5/6 with lifelink that draws you cards?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And when it deals combat damage, by the way, Death Touch lifelink, no one's going to block this thing. You mail that many cards and you can put a creature from among them into your hand. So this is obviously already a creature-based deck. Barrel Goyf is just one of those cards that every single line of text is relevant to what your commander wants to do. It's like those perfect fits. We've gotten a lot of those these days in Commander.
All right. Self-mill is card selection in this deck, and you do have to have exactly the right mana value. If you sacrifice a 2-drop, you have to get a 3-drop, not 3 or less.
Yes.
So make sure that you're not skimping in the self-mill category.
Yeah, and now that you're rebuying stuff from the graveyard, like any good Birthing Pod type deck, you want creatures with strong ETB abilities. So obviously, this is a creature-based deck. You're going to go... We just did it, by the way. We went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4.
So clever.
Ravenous Chupacabra. Ravenous. ETB destroy creature. So very good.
Boggart Trawler is going to be great anytime you can have a creature that isn't a land in your graveyard. It goes a long way. This is the Bajuka Bog one.
Disciple of Bolus is very good as well. Just a great way, you don't want this early in the game. You want this when it really matters. And again, you want creatures dying. You're going to have creatures to sacrifice. So Disciple of Bolus is obviously very powerful.
Vile Entomber is perfect in a deck like this. It's 2 black for a zombie warlock. It's a 2/2 with Death Touch. When this creature enters, search your library for a card, put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle. It entombs a card when it enters the battlefield.
Yeah, find yourself a 5-drop.
Find yourself a 5-drop, exactly.
Yeah. And then obviously not only cards that care about entering, but cards that care about dying. So Gixian Puppeteer, I'm always trying to find a place to put this into a deck.
I love this card.
Yeah, it's 3 in the black. When you redraw a second card each turn, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Not as relevant. But when it dies, you return another creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. With your commander out, this brings a 5-drop back and a 3-drop back. And then the 3-drop black brings back the Gixian Puppeteer. Ah!
We're doing it.
We did it.
Body Launderer does a similar thing. It's whenever a non-token creature you control dies, it connives, so you can fill up your graveyard. And then when Body Launderer itself dies, return another target non-rogue creature card with equal or lesser power from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Which isn't hard to do. A lot of the big powerful creatures like your Disciple of Bolas, your Chupacabra all have low power.
Because they have strong ETBs.
Exactly. Wow. Look at how that works. Vindictive Lynch. This is just one of those cards that feels like Lavinia almost. 3 in the black, 4/1. When it dies, you choose one or more, and each mode must target a different player. Target opponent sacrifices a creature. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Target opponent loses 5 life. All 3 of those are going on the stack.
Those are all so fun.
Yeah, so fun. And doing it multiple times a game.
They love it.
No way.
And like I mentioned, having creatures that can recur themselves from the graveyard repeatedly are perfect to sack. It turns your commander's ability into creature advantage rather than creature parity, where you're sacrificing a creature to get 1 Gravecrawler. Of course, Bloodghast, Tenacious Underdog. Variety in mana value makes you more flexible for what you can get back from the graveyard.
Yeah, you don't want a full deluge of just 4 drops because then you can't get your 3s back out. You want your 1s, 2s. Yeah, I think looking at the curve of this will be really important to just going do I have enough at any given moment to move up the chain?
And finally, more recursion. So your commander can only do this once per turn unless you're doing some untapped shenanigans, which is okay. You can definitely do that. You're in mono black. It's not that easy.
It's just artifacts that really help you do that. Yeah, Mage Stone or whatever.
But you do want other creatures that bring back other creatures. We've mentioned some of those before already. This is definitely a Metamorphosis Fanatic deck. You sacrifice a 5-drop to bring back this, to bring back a 5-drop. Golgari Thug is a really great option. It's self-mill. When it dies, it returns a creature from your graveyard to on top of your library, which is great because you can put the Metamorphosis Fanatic on top, and then, it's a miracle! This is exactly the kind of deck I want to play all day.
Yeah,
Looping
this is disgusting.
Annoying non-creature spells that all work together.
Yeah, you thought it was just mono white? No. Rachel can do it in mono black too.
Graveyard gamer, annoying.
Yeah, play Pajuka Bog if you ever meet Rachel, by the way. Just so you know.
I just want to build this deck 400 different ways. And it's a great Chthonian Nightmare deck.
Yeah, they banned Recurring Nightmare, but Chthonian Nightmare is pretty darn good.
It lives!
It lives, yeah.
They won't let me have Recurring Nightmare. For good reason, probably.
Yeah, I really want that card unbanned, but we have Chthonian Nightmare now, so I'm not as upset about it.
I know.
So,
but you still get to play with it.
Yeah, there you go.
When you're playing a deck that is trying to take things from the battlefield into your graveyard and the graveyard onto the battlefield, you want extra recursion, you want extra sack outlets. So anything that
allows you to
just control where things are at any given time is going to feel better. So Woe Strider is great in this deck. It's not necessarily going to be like an aristocrat style deck, but
having one in there,
having a sack outlet that you can get out of your graveyard to sacrifice your Metamorphosis Fanatic to get 2 things back or something.
Your Viscera Seer, all that sort of stuff.
Is just going to make you feel more in control of how your deck is working.
Oh my goodness. It's a Saw in Half deck.
It is! It's so good.
I have so many copies of this card because I saw it and I was just like, I know I'm just going to want this.
Saw in Half your Metamorphosis Fanatic. Get 2 things back.
Oh my gosh.
And then and then one of them gets back a Metamorphosis Fanatic, which gets something else back.
Yeah. And you have 2 targets for your commander.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. Sanhaf, you never, by the way, ever cast this on your opponent's creatures.
No, this is a flicker spell in black.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And High Market, of course, is just a good sack outlet to have.
Yeah, Phyrexian Tower, all that good stuff. You look up mono black, you just look up sacrifice decks. You'll have a lot of ways. Like Rachel said, there's 100 different ways to build
Check
this
out
deck.
my deck list because I'm definitely building this. It's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, but well, so in that case, the question...
Chthonian nightmare.
A Chthonian nightmare. How high of a pod chain are you building into the deck? Are you going all the way up to 7, 8?
That's the interesting thing. I honestly think you stop at 6.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of pod chains, you're not going to get that high, and your commander is a creature. It's very delicate. So I think like I go up to Metamorphosis Fanatic, and that brings back 5 drops, and that brings in 4 drops, and it's more
you
about
end up Metamorphosis Fanatic.
which brings back other things, and the Troll of Khazad-dûm, that kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah. Very
that are
good.
just
This deck,
like
Swamp Cycle, that cycle.
Those are good, strong enough creatures. You can win the game with those rather than, I don't think you need to go all the way up to like 10 with an Archon or anything.
Yeah.
And it makes you more flexible.
Yeah. So that's a break. Man, they made one just for you.
It's for me.
Yeah, they really
and
did.
it's Sidisi.
Yeah.
Come on.
They knew.
All right.
Did
let's move on. We got a lot more to talk about.
we have 1, 2, 3 more to talk about, and then we're finally going to be done. Hooray. All right, let's blast through it. Taigam, a Master Opportunist. It's mono blue time. 1 in the blue for a 2/2 legendary creature human monk with a flurry. It's a new mechanic from this set. It cares about casting your second spell. So whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you copy it, then exile the spell you cast with 4 time counters on it. If it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. So Taigam is going to be bringing back your second spells each turn, but with 4 time counters on it. So this is a deck that wants you to manipulate the time counters, but more importantly, cast the spells, get them going, and then hopefully get the time counters off quickly. It is mono blue, so you're a little bit limited in that regard. But let's talk about casting 2 spells a turn first.
Yeah, we're going to start.
Actually, let's talk about some rules.
There's a couple of weird rules anytime you get suspend involved. I was basically sitting by our 2 coworkers who know rules very well and was like, what happens if this happens? What happens if this happens?
And they let you know. And
so if you cast your opponent's spell as your second spell per turn, you get a copy of it because your commander copies it, but it sends it on suspend under their control because it's their
spell.
card. So if you, for some reason, are casting their stuff, they benefit from this.
Okay.
And then if you copy a copied spell, for example, like a wizard's spell book exiles a card from a graveyard and lets you cast a copy of it, and that's your second spell, your commander will give you a copy of it, and it will exile the original copy, but that copy can't live in exile. It's simply a token copy of a spell. So it doesn't go on suspend.
Okay,
those are the weird corner cases. Let's get into the regular stuff.
Yay! So you want to copy spells. You obviously need to make them not cost too much because they're trying to be the second spell of your turn, and you may not have that much mana. You're in mono blue, so your ramp package is not going to be that amazing either.
Yeah. Curve low for sure. You can include some stuff that cares about when you cast your second spell. It doesn't really matter. Ledger Shredder obviously is good in most blue decks, but there's a couple other things that are like whenever you cast your second spell, copy that spell. Storm of Saruman and...
Who's Saruman? Is that a magic character?
Very famous magical character.
Magical magician.
And Tomb of Horrors Adventurer. It introduces the initiative, so sorry about that. But also, whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy it. If you've completed a dungeon, copy that spell twice instead. That's going to be a little less likely.
Yeah. So those are like your top end, get ready to really win the game type spells when they're out.
I think when this deck is really popping off, you're copying your second spell 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And those just give you an additional way to copy them. Okay. The next spell category we're going to talk about is just copying stuff more.
Yeah, again, the blue deck is going to be an annoying one to play.
I think this one's fun.
It's more fun than Storm for sure, but Twinning Staff introduces a lot of headaches to the game for me. So, a 3-mana artifact, if you would copy a spell 1 or more times, instead you copy it that many times plus an additional time, and then you can choose new targets for the additional copy.
Yeah, so specifically your commander copies your second spell, and then it exiles the original spell. So Twinning Staff is like, oh, you copied a spell, I'll give you an additional one.
Yay.
So now you cast your commander on 2, you cast this on 3, your second spell on that turn will be copied twice, and you will have the original exiled, which is sweet.
And then you can play 7 mana, tap Twinning Staff to copy another instant or sorcery. So you can really go nuts with that. But that often, you don't really get there. You'd rather be doing other stuff.
Other ways you can do that is just by copying your commander with clones that don't care about legends.
Yeah. Spark Double and Sakashima and Irenicus' Vile Duplication are all 4 mana ways in mono blue to copy your commander and give you another copy that isn't legendary or ignores the legendary rule.
Yeah, like if your Spark Double is your second spell, now you get a copy of the Spark Double and you get one on exile and you'll get more later. It's cool.
Yeah, and the next turn you're going to have so many freaking Taigams.
Yes.
That's pretty sweet.
This is a cool errant deck. I've always been looking for a place to put errant street artists.
Yeah. 1 mana Flash Defender Haste, 1 in the blue, tap, copy target spell you control that wasn't cast.
So that it just gives you an additional way to copy it.
Yeah.
I did want to mention there's a room that's kind of sweet in this deck. It's a Mirror Room and Fractured Realm. Mirror Room is okay. It's going to give you a copy of a creature you control, so it's good with your non-legendary copies. But the cool one is Fractured Realm. This is 7 mana, so it's a lot, but it says if a triggered ability of a permanent you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. So it is like another clone of your commander, but now all of your copies of your commander copy the spell twice.
Yep.
And technically send it on suspend twice, but there's by the time that it triggers, there's not one on the stack anymore.
I mean, we've already talked about 2 6-mana spells, 2 Mephora's Adventures, and 2 Saruman, and then now we have a 7-mana Fractured Realm. This again feels like you choose kind of one of the 3, maybe 2 of the 3 as what your top end is going to be, and then from there that becomes your win con.
Yes, especially because you need a lot of cheap things to be able to double spell as soon as possible.
Yeah. Okay, it's time to mess with time itself.
Sure is.
Yay. So time counters have historically been, or suspend counters have historically been something that you can take off as you continue with playing by using cards and stuff. And so there are ways to get the card off of suspend for it much more quickly.
Yeah, so I've mentioned a bunch of cards that just also have time counters in here, but that's more of a flavor reason. You want things like Clock Spinning, which is a 1-mana instant with buyback for 3. You can choose a counter on target permanent or suspended card, remove the counter from that permanent, or put an additional one on if the timing is sort of weird. Mostly you're going to be removing with this.
Yeah, it's also so cheap if you only need to do this once, but later on you can pay 4 mana to do it over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, you can cast it, copy it 3 times, remove a bunch of counters, cast one of your things off of suspend.
That turn, yeah.
Doctor Who gave us a lot of ways to manipulate time counters. Anytime you time travel, that you're very interested in a card like that, especially if you can copy it.
Yeah.
Wibbly Wobbly,
suspended card.
Timey Wimey is the name of this card. It's a sorcery that says draw a card. It has time travel. It says for each suspended card you own and permanent you control with a time counter on it, you may add or remove a time counter.
And it's a cantrip, a draws card.
It's perfect.
Yeah, this is the classic Doctor Who quote that say if you don't know Doctor Who at all, you probably heard him say wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
One of the few Doctor Who quotes I know.
Yeah, there you go. Time Beetle is also a creature that allows you to take stuff off because it's got Skulk. I don't know why they randomly put Skulk on a freaking...
Yeah, he's a sneaky bug. He's skulking around.
It's a 1/1 for 2 mana. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you time travel. So same thing for each permanent or card you own. You get to remove or add a time counter.
All of history, all at once, for sure. It has 2 keywords on it. Time travel and storm.
Hey!
We're doing it.
Yeah.
I did want to mention 2 other ways to manipulate time, and that is by multiplying your upkeeps.
Oh.
So Paradox Haze or Sphinx of the Second Sun will make all of your stuff with time counters on it trigger twice, which means that they move through time twice as fast.
There you go. That's cute. Okay. 2 more.
Teval, Arbiter of Virtue.
All right, we're back to Sultai. This is 2 black, green, and the blue for a 6/6 flying lifelink spirit dragon. Spells you cast have delve. So each card you cast from, each card you exile from your graveyard while casting those spells pays for 1 of its mana costs. Generic mana only. Whenever you cast a spell, you lose life equals to its mana value. So that's just static.
That just happens?
Yeah.
That just happens.
You're gonna die.
Teval is very interesting because I do think you want to cast a lot of spells with Delve, obviously, but you have to very carefully manage your life total. He's got lifelink, so that helps.
But if you just straight up delve away and cast an 8-drop, you're going to lose 8 life immediately.
Yeah, you are. So you have to be pretty careful about when you deploy Teval and what you're going to cast with them.
Yes.
The first thing you got to talk about is self-mill.
Yay, we did it again. Every Sultai deck cares about self-mill.
Every single one.
And each of them were mentioning different cards, which is incredible.
Thank you. I worked really hard. So So this one I focus on colorless cards because they're particularly good with Delve.
Oh, great.
Because you can reduce the casting cost to 0.
Yeah, there you go.
So this is a great Palantir of Orthanc deck, which is an artifact that either mills or draws you cards. It does a little bit of milling at the beginning and then will probably draw you cards.
Yeah, and potentially could really hurt your opponents because if you're jamming 7, 8 drops in your deck, they kind of want you to take the cards. You can read the text yourself. It's too much for us. Mesmeric Orb deck. Every time a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller mills a card. If you have other graveyard decks at the table, this will not be a great card to play.
It will turbocharge them, yes.
Yeah, but you also get turbocharged. This is probably one of the fastest mill engines in Commander.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Another cool one that's also expensive, which works well with Teval, is Wondrous Crucible.
Oh, yeah.
It's a 7-mana artifact that says permanents you control have Ward 2. Great. At the beginning of your end step, mill 2 cards, then exile a non-land card at random from your graveyard. Copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost.
Best part about this is you delve out 7 cards you don't want.
Yeah.
And then you randomly cast, I mean, outside of what you mill, you have a much higher chance of getting what you want.
I also like that this sort of does what Teval wants, is cast like big, powerful things. But if Teval gets removed, or if you sacrifice Teval because he's killing you, you still get some ability to cast those big spells in your deck.
Yeah. Notably, if you cast Wondrous Crucible, get rid of some stuff, and then cast another big mana spell, you could lose like 15 life in a single turn.
Yeah, careful.
Yeah, you gotta be real careful.
You do need sort of emergency sack outlets
for
your
sure,
commander.
Yeah.
Or ways to at least
like, oh, I can't play this turn because I will just die. Yeah.
So like, stop doing that to me. I wonder if you want like a Teferi's Veil. Like when you attack, you phase out the creature at end of combat.
Yeah.
So you attack, gain 6 life, phase out your commander where you can cast like some.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not going to delve these out. Yeah, just let me get.
I didn't think about that. That's really funny. And then you want mill stuff that sort of works with this artifact plan or this colorless plan. Emery, Lurker of the Lock, comes in, mills some stuff, and lets you cast spells from your graveyard. So it works on a couple of axes. Yeah.
Notably, if you are able to reduce the mana cost, it doesn't change the overall mana value of the spell.
Yep.
So you're still going to take the damage, even if you take a Dig Through Time from 8 to 2 mana, it's still going to deal 8 damage to you.
Yeah, careful.
Yikes.
Dread Summons is sweet. This is a mill card that is an X spell, so you can sort of delve away as much as you'd like and take a lot of damage for it.
Yeah.
Each player mills X cards for each creature card put into a graveyard. This way you make a 2/2 tapped black zombie creature token.
Okay. Yeah, builds up your board.
Defends your life total.
With tapped creatures. Wait for another turn, please. Also, notably, X spells, the mana value is decided after you pay what the X cost is.
Right.
Yeah.
So you will take a lot of damage from these big X spells.
Yeah, but you could, for instance, cast a Genesis Wave or a Breach the Multiverse or a Villainous Wealth for a ton of mana. And hopefully, if you do it for like 13, you lose 13, whatever, but you cast 6 cards off it, 7 cards. And then now you're unassailable.
Careful with Villainous Wealth because it'll cast it. Genesis Wave is good because it puts them into play.
Gross.
But yeah, you do have to be careful because some of these big X spells cast the spells, so then you're going to lose all the life for all the cards you just cast. But Genesis Wave says you put all of them onto the battlefield, which is much safer for your life total. Breach the Multiverse also puts them into play. It doesn't cast them, so that's very helpful.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, maybe this deck has an infinite life gain combo.
It might. It kind of needs it. And it may just be that you're trying to cast more like value artifacts. Like maybe you're casting Thran Dynamos with this and you're not casting giant X spells.
Yeah.
Because I think the way that you want it to work is you play Teval and then you cast at least 2 or 3 spells for free, like colorless spells. You lose like 12 life and then you figure out how to get Teval off the board.
Yeah.
And you benefit from having all of those free spells on that turn. Is going to be how it feels the most powerful.
Yeah, you're saving so much mana already on your other spells, so.
Like if you cast Teval and you cast a free like Eldrazi, then people are like, wah! And you lose 10 life, so careful. You
get rid of Teval, but now you have an Eldrazi, and it's hard to kill you.
It is.
That's your hope, really.
That's the hope.
That what you're doing is going to negate the amount of life loss that people are going to want to throw at you as a result of being the threat.
Portal to Phyrexia is a very helpful one because you pay 9 life, but also you eliminate 9 threats.
Yeah. Portal to Phyrexia seems like the kind of thing that you want to do, right? You could play this in a very controlling way where it's all about playing Teval, a bunch of stuff, then board wipe. Mm-hmm. Then, or a conditional board wipe, like a toxic delish.
Careful.
Be careful.
He'll hurt you.
Teval is fun in that way, though.
He's so fun. I like the push and pull of this.
Yeah.
Because you want to cast big, cool stuff, but you're also like, ooh.
Yeah. Do I?
Like Darksteel Monolith feels perfect in a deck like this. It's an 8-mana artifact that has indestructible. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a colorless spell you cast from your hand.
Yeah.
You still lose life equal to the one that you cast for 0.
Even though it costs 0. Yeah. The card.
But this is the kind of engine that you can cheat into play with your commander and then benefit from it after you've like eliminated your commander from the situation.
Yeah, I was gonna actually say I think a really good card in this deck is also High-Fate Trickster. Because you kind of want to wait to see what you do based on what your opponents do before you're like, okay, this turn I actually don't want to lose that much life from my spells. But this turn I do because there's no threats I see from what just happened, and I can sort of predict what's about to go down.
On your end step, I lose 10 life, and then I'm going to gain 6 back when I attack my commander.
Or on your end step, wow, no one did anything, great. I can lose 20 life and feel safe about it, or whatever it is.
But remember, you do have to like have a lot of stuff in your graveyard. So you have to make sure that your graveyard is full of stuff to actually delve away.
Yeah.
So the final thing we have to talk about is life gain or sack outlets. I like sort of having both of these on the same cards because they're good at the same time. So like Momentous Fall is cool. It's 2 green for an instant. You sacrifice a creature. You draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Then you gain life equal to its toughness. So you gain 6, you draw 6, and it's at instant speed.
Yeah, and you obviously have if you're playing your big creature beaters, these are great things to also target with a Momentous Fall.
Yeah.
Mirror in the Moaning Well is a bit fun. It's harder to use, but it's 3 mana tap, sacrifice creature, gain life equal to its toughness. So just having a sacrifice outlet on the land, even high market, even though you're getting 1 life, is still good enough, I think, in a deck like this.
Phyrexian Tower is a more expensive option, but obviously very powerful.
Yeah.
And then Reckoner's Bargain is 1 and a black for an instant. You can sacrifice an artifact or a creature to pay as an additional cost, and you gain life equal to the sacrifice permanent's mana value. Draw 2 cards.
Yeah, that's really good with your Polar Phyrexia and all those types of cards, yeah.
It's great for your high mana value stuff. It's great for your commander. You sacrifice it, you gain 5, you draw 2 cards.
All right, one more. It's Zurgo time.
It is. You got to end with Zurgo.
You got to end with Zurgo. He was also, the letter Z, so sorry, Zurgo. It's Zurgo, Thunderous Decree. It's Mardu, red, white, black for a 2/4 with Mobilize 2, new mechanic. Whenever this creature attacks, create 2 tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature tokens that get sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step. And it also says, during your end step, specifically, warrior tokens you control have this token can't be sacrificed.
Cool.
So that is going to override the ability that's on it as long as Zurgo is alive and is able to apply that ability to them.
Yeah, so this is the main set Zurgo. The other Zurgo is the face commander of the Precon, where we talk about him at length in the Precon upgrade, so we're not going to spend time on him here. But he's also has Mobilize and is kind of doing similar things, although they counteract each other in this very interesting way.
Yeah, because Zurgo's also mobilizes 1, and it says whenever creature token you control leaves the battlefield, draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, each opponent loses 1 life.
So it wants it to die in combat, and then the other Zurgo says, if you made it to the end step, you get to stay.
Hooray, yeah, if you didn't get blocked. So the idea is that if it gets blocked, you get to draw a card, or if you have a sacrifice outlet, you get to draw a card there.
So there's a couple ways that you can build this one. The first one is really focusing on the mechanic. Mobilize, of course, is you want to make a ton of tokens. And there's some good cards that support this, both in that Precon, in the Zurgo Stormrender Precon, and in the main set. Most of them are kind of low-impact creatures because they're made for 1v1 play. But Voice of Victory, I think in particular, is worth mentioning.
Yeah, your opponents can't cast spells during your turn for a 1 and a white 1/3 with Mobilize 2. Wow, this card's going to be really powerful and limited.
It's really powerful in 1v1.
Yeah.
So it protects your turn. It gives you the 2 mobilized creatures, which this deck could be focusing on making sure that little creatures are not blocked. If you're focusing really on the mobilized mechanic. If you are, you're probably leaning into stuff like Ishin to double your attack triggers, or like Mondrak and Anointed Procession to double the number of tokens that you're making.
Yeah, or cards that just like the Caravan for creatures power 2 or less can't be blocked, similar to the Hazaret we mentioned earlier. There's a lot of different ways to make sure those things don't die in combat.
Bedlam, creatures can't block. And you're just totally front foot attacking with tokens is the design.
Or finding a way to give them all indestructible, yada, yada.
I think that's a much more straightforward build, but is definitely one that you can do. Of course, I tried to get a little fancy and start looking at non-token warriors that you can keep on your end step. So we're going to talk about some other warrior tokens outside of the mobilized mechanic, starting with something like Angel of Indemnity, which is a warrior with Encore.
Right, and Encore says sacrifice them at the beginning of the end step.
Except you don't if you control your commander. So if you cast Angel of Indemnity from your graveyard with its Encore ability, you get 3 of them, you attack with them, you get all of their triggers, and then you keep 3 on the battlefield on your end step.
Yeah.
It's very powerful and cool.
Yeah, that's nuts. You return, by the way, you'll get 3 additional mana value 4 or less cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you're going to recur a ton of stuff. This is an 8 mana win con right here.
Yeah, for sure.
It has lifelink too.
The only other warrior, unfortunately, with Encore is Exquisite Huntmaster. This is a 4/2 that when it dies, you create a 1/1 elf warrior creature token and it has Encore for 5. So it's not as good, but it still does a cool thing.
Yeah, it's a cute thing.
It's a cute thing. The other way to make token copies.
Wow, there's so many of them. This is similar again, by the way, to the Atali deck I was talking about.
Yeah.
So Eartheon, Hero of Lavabrink, allows you to pay 1 in the red to create a token that's a copy of another creature you control, gains haste, and again, specifically sacrificing at the beginning of the end step.
Yeah.
So Eartheon's going to be able to give you copies. Kiki Jiki is going to be able to give you copies of a lot of stuff. Oh my gosh. Angel of Indemnity, Kiki Jiki.
Bleh.
Live the dream with all these cards that cost 1 billion colored mana pips.
But there's stuff like Jaxus, there's stuff like
Yeah.
Feldon that can return your big warriors from the graveyard to the battlefield. Anything that has the token clause of like it gains haste and at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice it, you can get around. There's tons of these, but keep an eye out for ones that exile that you still will exile them.
You still got to exile them, yeah.
Or if they sacrifice or exile at the end of combat, because that is the
Yes.
other
Yeah.
way this is often formatted. There's a whole bunch of ways to make these tokens that sacrifice on end step. We've mentioned a few of them. Calamity, Galloping Inferno is a pretty sweet one. It's a horse. Sick. Sick.
You have to saddle it, but you choose a non-legendary that's saddled it. You create a tapped and attacking token, and it gets sacked at the beginning of the next end step. And you repeat this process once. So you get two
of them,
non-legendaries.
And then you get to keep them if they survive combat.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Jolly Balloon Man, you get to keep your Balloon Warriors.
Molten Duplication is just a spell that creates a copy. Pretty sweet. Heat Shimmer, similar.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. You can pick the ones that you have at home, or you can pick the ones that suit you best.
Yes.
The final thing that we have to talk about, of course, is warriors that we're copying. Because we need
what do you wanna copy?
non-legendary warriors to actually copy with our Kiki Jikis or reanimate with Feldons.
Yeah. You can just go infinite and Kiki Jiki Zealous Conscripts.
Yay!
It's a warrior.
It is a warrior. So it's a natural fit for this deck. And then on your end step, you keep all the Zealous Conscripts.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
That's
Bunch of
really
3/3s,
funny. And you
yeah.
steal every permanent on the battlefield, and then you keep all the Zealous Conscripts. It's
Yeah,
fine.
if you haven't won at that point,
You should have won.
you should have won, yeah.
Yeah, something
But
has happened.
Even if you don't have Kiki Jiki out, or you just don't want to play Kiki Jiki because maybe you think 3 red mana pips is too much, Zealous Conscripts is still just a really good card.
It's
You
a
can-
warrior that you can copy, and it's
Yeah.
great to copy.
And by the way, you can steal, by the way, mana rocks, lands. It's a target
Planeswalkers.
permanent. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's really, really good.
Star Athlete is one that I've been having a lot of fun with. This is 1 red for a 3/2 human warrior with menace. Whenever it attacks, choose up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller may sacrifice it. If they don't, Star Athlete deals 5 damage to that player. And it has Blitz for 3 and a red. So you're like, I want you to sacrifice that Rhystic Study, or you take 5 damage.
Like,
and they're
I'm
like,
taking
fine, I'll
5.
take 5.
Ugh.
And then you have a copy of Star Athlete, and you're like, sacrifice that Rhystic Study, or you're taking 5 damage.
Like, oh my gosh. Hey, at what point, how much damage? I think Josh would say like 20 damage is
You'd
worth
probably
of
take
Rhystic
20
Study.
for a Rhystic
Yeah,
Study,
I'm like
which is
10,
hilarious.
10 and I'm out.
But the more Star Athletes you have, the better they are, the funnier they are.
Yeah, that's funny. It's got Blitz too, so it's really good because it, of course, doesn't want to get sacrificed. Professional Face Breaker, pretty sweet.
A couple of those seems pretty good. You get to keep those around. Ogre
Yeah.
Battle Driver is another one that I mentioned. That I've alluded to before, but it's whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn.
Yeah, this is another one of those commanders where it's like a bunch of cards that you normally wouldn't play in Commander. They get to have their time in the day. Ogre Battle Driver used to be a total staple of the format. I used to see it all the time, and now it's finally got a fun little place to come back here.
Yeah.
Because it also gives your tokens that Zergo gives you +2/+0.
Right. So it's great with your Mobilize. It's great if you have multiple copies of it. It's great to keep around, and all of your warriors have attack triggers, basically. So that haste goes a long way as well.
Very cool.
So that's Zergo. A little fiddly, but very cool.
Thank you, Zergo. Okay, so we did it. We covered all the commanders that we wanted to. I'm dying. Let's talk about our favorite commander. I think mine's going to be the first one we talked about. It's Betor.
He's cool.
Yeah, I don't have a Reanimator deck really in my arsenal, and I haven't built an Abzan deck in a long time.
Yeah.
And Anafenza the Foremost was one of my first commander decks I ever built. Yeah, so I might get back into it with Betor here.
All right. I love that Abzan's getting a little bit of love in this set. Of course it is.
Wait, I have a Lord of the Rings
cool.
Abzan deck, sorry. But that doesn't really count.
Yeah. Frodo's not actually black.
But Frodo and Sam together.
Yeah, there you go.
Who's yours? I think people might be able to guess it.
It's Sidisi. Yeah, she's super cool. It's a really annoying deck to play, and I am excited to do it.
When can we expect a deck list?
I don't know.
When can the people expect a deck list,
I built
Rachel?
so many. Maybe by the time this video comes out, I'll have a deck list together.
Yeah.
If I do, I'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, there you go. All right, now let's talk about most powerful commander. This one I think is pretty obvious.
It's
Narset! Jeskai Waymaster. Yeah, the one that draws cards equal to the number of spells you cast this turn. Anytime you can justify playing every card that costs 0 mana in your deck, it's going to be up there in terms of power.
Yeah. Storm is a powerful archetype. It needs to be piloted by somebody who knows what they're doing and a playgroup who's prepared to sit through a big storm turn or interact through a storm turn.
I can't believe so many cards have Storm in this set. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Did you see the Storm Scale Dragon?
I did. Dragonstorm.
Very funny.
Yeah, Tiamat. If someone's like, oh, this is a win the game on the spot, I'm like, yeah, that's a casual 13 mana win the game. Yeah, okay, sure, no problem.
Dragons are good because people like dragons.
Yeah, I do love it.
To the listeners, do you like dragons? Which commanders do you think are the most powerful commanders in the set?
Which dragons?
Did we miss any that you were like, I wish you talked about this one, or I think this one's really underrated? Let us know. And let us know what commanders you are planning on building from Tarkir. If you've got the sweet tech, drop it in the comments below, especially for Sidisi.
Yeah, there's some really fun cards in this set. I think they did a good job returning to Tarkir and bringing the flavor back. So it's a breath of fresh air, hot breath of dragon,
of rainforest and fire, smoky air.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, cardkingdom.com/command. If you want to pick up any of the pre-cons, we do all the pre-con upgrade guides on the show here. So make sure that if you want to do the 10 in, 10 out, you can go to cardkingdom.com/command to do all of that. You get all the cards that you need from their great warehouse of inventory, and you get the condition that you want. You can build a budget deck. You can do whatever you want. You can get product. You can draft. I'm really excited to draft this set. So go ahead and do that at cardkingdom.com/command, and you're supporting the show while you do it. I'm going to keep going. ultrapro.com/command. That's right, Rachel. It's all Jimmy all the time. Protect your cards with the brand new Apex sleeves. They are releasing Apex sleeves for every set now, and the way that they print the art on it is really fantastic. The shuffle feel is great. They also have the play mats that match a lot of the commanders we talked about today, as well as the deck boxes and the sleeves. So you can go for a full out thematic thing. You can build the pre-con environment with friends, which is something I always love to do. And you can have all the playmats and stuff to match. And maybe a lot of players that really want to come in on this set. And what better way to welcome them with a pre-con and like a playmat and all the stuff that matches to really make it feel all tied together.
Yeah, get him a dragon.
Get him a real dragon at ultrapro.com/command.
Before we go, we got to say thank you to our amazing team here at the Command Zone. Thank you to Rachel Kendra, Karina Cruz, Sebastian Salazar, Gaurav Galati, Jamie Block, Jordan Bridgen, Jake Boss, Eric Lem, Josh Murphy, Manson Lung, Christopher Matista, Evan Limburger, Sam Waldo, and of course,
Josh Lee Kwai.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you're enjoying Dragonstorm. We are.
Yeah, we'll see you out there. Maybe you'll play me in the draft.
Bye.
Peace.